Yellow. Good morning, everybody. Music sounds familiar, but can't place it right away. Almost like it's in some kind of lost dream. A dream underneath another dream. Welcome back to Morgan Monday. We got a big do one of the interviews fast. Gotta warm up some pizza. Yeah, we can make that happen. Yeah, I'll go ahead and do a quick summary of events for last stream while I navigate to that. I think that was the bonus scenarios. Yes. We already did the only one we have for episode 0, but that's fine. Let me think. So, we spoke with the Icaria family, and they asked us to clear one of their own for a murder. 5 murders, to be specific. The trouble is that 4 of those murders, he was framed for because Morgan was the one who did them, and he happened to be tied up in the other room. And yeah, as a kind of, like, bizarre wrench in the plan, although it's not sure whose plan it's a wrench in, he also is accused of killing a cop, and that's the one that he's really in trouble for, of course. And also the only one Morgan had nothing to do with. So that'll be exciting, but real quick we're going to look at some... we'll talk to Yumi. Technically, Iris was voicing her at one point, but I took her up later on, and I don't actually think I settled on a voice I really liked. So this will be a little bit of, like, either I can vibe something out if I, like, expect her to appear again, and if not, it won't be that big of a deal if it's inconsistent, but she's been mentioned in episode 2 thus far. Rare L on Morgan's part. It was like Goth GF by the end. Okay, sorry. What's up, sweetie? I wanted to interview you. Is this your android homework? The thing is, she's definitely she's definitely goth, and she's also definitely peppy, so, like, moody vibes that would be the, like, default, like, cartoon goth voice doesn't fit, but I feel like... We'll vibe it out. Atonai assigned me a variety of tasks, but I made the independent calculation that I wanted to learn more about you. Oh. Is that strange? For an android? It's different, but there's nothing wrong with being different. What'd you have in mind? Most of my coursework was rooted in biology, yeah. But medicine and technology are intertwined at this point. Are you referring to the software and hardware you use when performing your autopsies? Sarah definitely did the shy blush smile. Spreadsheets and bone saws? Yeah, but you can learn that on site. You have to actively study mods. All the anatomy textbooks in the world won't help you understand why a healthy 30-year-old is exhibiting mania and constantly vomiting. Unless you saw the last week's recall on the how artificial liver for lithium leaks. Mods can make people sick, even though they're meant to improve the body. Just like medicine can make people sick. And just like medicine, there's a lot of profit to be made with mods. But unlike medicine, mods haven't been around for thousands of years. Feels like we're still playing catch-up. We, as in medical professionals? We, as in everyone, sweetie. The whole world's population is graying. The numbers on cause of death reflect that. Less cardiovascular, more neurological. What about cancer? Cancer mortalities have been on the decline for a while now. Mods helped with that. How so? By making everyone that much more comfortable with amputation. It used to be people had no choice but to fight the cancer, and it was costly. A salt-the-earth kind of war that left the body severely weakened. With mods where they're at today, doctors can just cut out the offending organ, replace it, and move on. But not every organ. No, artificial brains are... Nothing I've seen has told me that they're on the menu anytime soon. On the menu is a weird way to say that. But aren't mods that are implanted into the brain entering the market as we speak? Yeah, but it's more like they're implanted onto the brain. Small computers that read commands directly from the cortex instead of, say, the keyboard your fingers are typing on. No, to actually replace brain tissue, you would have to... The analogies become pretty common, but the human brain isn't actually that much like a computer. A box of specialized components where you can swap in new parts to increase the memory or the processing speed. Everything is connected to everything. And memory, as we think of it, isn't stored in a place. It's stored among connections and their relative strength. I've cut it open and seen it for myself more times than I could count. There are no cutting off points in the nervous system. Anything you take away, every other part is gonna notice. That was a long tangent. Sorry, can't imagine a lecture on the human nervous system is of any interest to an android.
This is a really interesting way to describe the brain.
Like, I guess I get it. But it's... I mean, like she pointed out, it's kind of hard to get a perfect analogy. Yes, I mean, it isn't... That is to say, what's wrong? I don't want to implicate Yumi in anything illegal by telling her about my unique circumstances. But how can I change the subject? When Atonai wants to shift the conversation, she'll typically find something arbitrary in the background to ask about. I am curious about the many decorations on your desk. Oh, what caught your eye? That magnet over there. Really? You recognize it? It appears to be a flag, but I do not know the country of origin.
Ah, Lebanese.
Yes! It's an early 21st century pride flag. They used to change the designs every few years back then, so... You can kind of collect them like coins.
Oh!
I see. And what is this and what is this flag proud of? Being trans, or trans visibility more accurately? Visibility? What does that mean?
I think I saw this one.
We're living in the middle of the mod revolution. Anyone who can look like whatever or whoever they want, as long as they have the cash. Compared to swapping out cybernetic arms and slotting in artificial spines, hormone therapy and affirmative surgery is nursing student level. And it's fast, too. The paperwork, the treatment, the recovery time, it's all so much faster than it used to be. Don't know if that makes the decisions any less heavy. But no one has to cross their fingers and wait anymore.
Oh, beautiful world.
After just a few days, they won't even have scars. So, all told, that means for the first time in a long time, this generation has fewer visibly trans people than the last one. And a flag like that one. Don't know. Guess it won't mean the same thing anymore. So, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know that it's good or bad, sweetie. Just different. And there's nothing wrong with being different, right? Yumi01.vid. Playback complete.
Wowie.
Nice. I'd, been on her wiki page and seen that she was canonically trans at one point, but I didn't know what the source of it was. So that's very fun.
You gotta be careful on them wikis.
Yeah. I don't usually go poking through. I think it was after I had finished episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't think... I think I just went to the trivia section. I don't think I looked at the other tabs at all.
Imagining that a character's gonna have a trivia at some point of this character being the murderer is a reference to this case in Phoenix Wright.
It's not impossible. Also, to not be coy about it, I was playing some, Pinnacone music in the pre-stream.
Oh, right, that'd be why. Okay.
Okay. Oh yeah. I did a little, description of what was going on. We paused in the middle of checking out the crime scene. Or at least, after checking out the crime scene before checking out the side room that the suspect was being held in. When we...
Violence interrogation scene.
When we morgued all over those guys. And there aren't very many things to check in here. Hypodermic needles. Probably not packing anything healthy. Sosuke better hope they were at least sanitized. I'm not sure Sarah can treat an infection with gauze and rubbing alcohol alone. But those needles there... The design of these needles seems a little odd.
Well, someone will tell you sooner or later, so... They're projectiles. Load them into a gun and fire them away. They're away, not in.
Say what?
I was muttering that there's no M between fire and away, but oops.
Well, Sosuke was captured by men wielding needle guns. Does Scientist Security have any peacekeeping tools they'd like to disclose as having recently gone missing?
You're cursing up the wrong pipe. He could find out tools all on his own. We're not that kind of operation.
Is that a phrase?
Cursing up the wrong pipe.
An operation where the right hand doesn't know what the left is doing?
More like the right hand's just been washed, so if you have to handle some garbage...
Sinus, is that legitimate? Why aren't all the Blue Bloods working legal jobs, then?
The position's available. Gotta earn like hell to be considered for a job on this side of the fence.
Creek and his pod weren't bringing in that kind of money?
They liked Creek's pod right where it was.
Who's they?
Upper management. That mask is a death sentence, crafted specifically for one very special customer. I'm just the one given the honor of hanging on to it until... Oh, no, wait, right, that was said before he was dying.
And did upper management like Creek?
I'm just a humble site manager, miss. I wouldn't know.
Sure. So do all these needles contain anesthetics?
No. There are also stimulants and barbitazine.
Like the truth serum?
You can get sued for selling it as such. Makes you talk. Doesn't make what you say the truth.
So, they wanted Sosuke talking, but what did they ask him?
If your client can't remember or isn't willing to recall, there's really no one else alive who would know, yeah?
True. And basically, that's true. Forgot about my weird bug. Barbitazine, depressant drug, loosens inhibitions, increases talkativeness. Originally developed as a hypnotic drug for active duty military personnel. I do like that they clarify sleep aid. This shit was not bimbo-fying people. Well, maybe
So
it was.
sad.
Currently prescribed, though rarely, as an anti-anxiety and anti-seizure medication. Often depicted in popular culture and some drug manufacturers' promotional materials as a truth serum, barbitazine has never been shown to function as such in a controlled setting. When compared against a sampling of liquors ranging from 40 to 80 proof, barbitazine resulted in truthful confessions only 0.2% more often, and no subjects admitted to providing information that they were not already comfortable with divulging. Users are also frequently searched for how to tell if someone is cheating, where to buy lie detector, see who has me muted on social media.
Jesus.
And we've got the needles in evidence. Match the non-lethal anesthetics found in Sosuke's bloodstream. But other needles were found with stimulants and quote-unquote truth serums. Has all this blood been tested, Miss Han?
Enough of it has. Besides Sosuke, who else would it belong to?
That's a bit lazy, but it's not as if there's more here than the last time I visited. Sosuke really did lose a lot of blood. By the time he stumbled out of here, a stiff breeze should have been enough to knock him over. Is he really such a badass that he still managed to take out a police officer before he'd even been noticed? It's not as if I feel nothing looking at someone else's handiwork, the product of their violence. But it's like an artificial sweetener. No complaints for that first instant. Then the aftertaste comes. Empty calories. I'll just be hungrier again later, faster. Best to stay disciplined. She sounds like a vampire when she...
Have we ever seen her not drink her victim's blood?
Oh, that's true. Morgan was always drinking everybody's blood when she killed them. It just wasn't important to the story.
You didn't see her run her tongue along the katana.
She didn't do it because she didn't want to leave saliva. You know... You know when she got home and did laundry, she was looking over her clothes and sucking out any blood splatters like a sponge.
Wringing them into cups.
It's water. Cold enough that condensation's on the outside of the bucket. Is that water for sponge baths?
A simple way to keep guests from dozing off. Temperature shock makes caffeine look like a sleep aid.
This coming after you claim you don't know if Sosuke was tortured? You know what that other bucket's for, then?
I know you said you've got a weak sense of smell, but do you really need a hint here?
But then this last bucket here is...
What is that, trash?
Cloth and rope. Bindings.
Or bandages? See, they were nursing him back to health.
I'll run your theory past Sosuke next chance I get. This must be what's left of what they're keeping Sosuke tied up with.
Would have had to use something, yeah. Door doesn't even lock.
Not after I moved the bat barring it from the outside. So he was brought here, tied up, questioned. Then he breaks out, bursts into the next room, cuts up 2 of his captors, and blows the other 2 away. That's what you think happened?
That's what it looks like.
And then what? Chopin runs in and turns his back on a violent criminal?
Don't strain yourself trying to make it sound improbable. Cops are dumb. If the Hound crouched in a corner, he'd have his chance soon enough.
Going Skyrim mode.
Hell, he probably just played dead. Walking into the scene out there, you think some patrol officer would go around checking pulses.
Why would my client go to all that trouble to get the jump on an officer? Why not just run away? Hell, why not ask him for medical treatment?
'Cause he was standing in the middle of the 4 men he just killed?
Ugh, I know that Sosuke had no logical reason to attack Chopin, but so what? Even Sosuke himself says he would have been acting on instinct. Would instinct tell him that Chopin was in between him and his escape? I'm getting a headache, but it's not from anything sensory. I should know more about this crime scene than anyone. Why can't I piece it together? If I can't piece it together, the cops will never trace any of this back to me, right? So why do I feel so ill at ease? Okay. Thanks for your patience, ladies. Did I miss anything?
Nah.
Oh.
Would you have felt better if you had?
I'm going to head out now, actually. I've got a long day tomorrow. You're going back by yourself, then? Are you sure? I could get you right out of the neighborhood. I'm sure Miss Hahn here has already made sure that we'll both get out of here without any trouble. That is her company's area of expertise, isn't it?
Of course.
Well, at least let me walk you out. Sure, why not?
Safe travels.
So, detective, there's something you didn't want to talk about in front of the professionals at Sinus Security? Thanks for picking up on that. Reyes will be upset that you never checked in. Yeah, right after this, I will. This room, are we directly underneath the crime scene? Yep. Same fire escape right there. Same type of window, too. Has this room been scanned into the arcs? Yeah, but no one found anything noteworthy. Except Sinus being sloppy. So what were you actually doing when you left Han and I back there? Something Han said earlier about how no true blue would wish harm on Creek. Her phrasing stood out to me. Because it implies the existence of false blue bloods? Because it reminded me of one of the first things I learned in this city. There are no monoliths. Megs, Orcas, City Hall, there are always factions. And among the Blue Bloods, the party lines are especially visible. So I made a call, not to Reyes, and confirmed some things. And I figure I owe you a little hint or two, considering the tone of the last message I delivered. That message warned me not to broaden the scope of my investigation. Getting hints from you might be self-defeating. Not these hints. Trust me. So what faction did our pal Creek belong to? The Youngbloods. Opposite end of the compass from the Old Guard. The conservative Blue Blood leadership. All of them older than 70, some of them pushing higher than 90. Han said Creek was too useful for anyone to want dead, but my sources don't agree. Creek talked. Said things aloud that others only whispered. Ambitious, charismatic, up-and-coming. And young. Could easily see him being very unpopular with all the wrong people in the Old Guard. That's interesting info, Detective, but it doesn't exactly flip this case on its head. I already know who killed Creek. The police have already decided it's Sosuke. Warning that he had some occupational hazards will hardly convince the jury otherwise. My client's the one standing accused, and everyone already knows why Blue Bloods and Ikarias would want to kill each other. Do you? They're rival gangs. They hate each other. Do you know why? It's the same reason all the Blue Blood leadership is ancient, while all their muscles made up of orphans and delinquents. 30 years ago, the Ikaria betrayed their peace with the Blue Bloods, started killing them. And they didn't stop for days. By the end of it, every single member of the leading Blue Blood families under the age of 40 was dead. Well, I can see how their kids would grow up to hate the Ikaria, yeah? You're not getting it, Tiger. Their kids didn't grow up at all. If that's the case, how are the Blue Bloods still around? For one thing, the Ikaria had bigger fish to fry. This was right before the Red Decade. They spent every second of the next 10 years positioning themselves so they could come out the other end as nobility. Second, what remained of the Blue Bloods found a new niche to fill. Taking in delinquents furious at a country driven off a cliff by adults before they could even get a chance to vote. Blue Bloods swelled their ranks to new heights by looking out for the little guys during those years, in exchange for favors down the line. Lastly, and most importantly, they survived because they still had hope. You serious? I am. It's a powerful weapon. Hope for what? Hope that the Ikaria had missed one. That they'd fled the country. Hope that a promised heir would grow strong in return one day. A triumphant little lord with overflowing riches and overwhelming power. Sounds like a fairy tale. Those endure for a reason. Well, now you know. A warning to watch where you step isn't exactly worth much if you're fumbling around in the dark. Fairy tales and warnings. What's up? Ah. Hey, did you or your pals in OC ever hear about some kind of blue blood hunter? Like a bounty hunter? Or huntsman, maybe? Where'd you hear that? Sosuke thinks he might have overheard talk of something like that while he was in captivity. Doesn't mean anything? Nope. I don't like the hesitation there, Detective. Just an urban legend. I would have said the same thing about Unlisted before this afternoon, and yet... Fair enough. If you see a huntsman and live to tell the tale, I'll buy you as many lotto tickets as you want. Hey, you ever pay attention to any of this graffiti down here? Scrawlings about a Lobo and the cyberpunk and HBK, increasingly. I haven't seen that myself. Was gonna say Red Hood. Why are you asking? You feel a chill down your spine? Ah. Except for HBK, that's all old news. Ghost stories and campfire tales. I don't remember what it is. I'm pretty sure this is a little alchemical symbol up top here.
I think that's a planet.
That
Not
sounds
sure.
like it would make sense.
Not sure.
There are a lot of campsites around here. Lots of places to start fires. But Red Hood, I haven't heard that in who knows how long. It's one of the oldest. Rough story. It's based on a real event. Nothing worth recounting. I'll take your word for it. What's gotten into you that you're feeling all superstitious? Guilty conscience? You mean about working with the Mafia? A psychologist would call that projecting. Ouch. Too far? Nah. Didn't feel a thing. I don't know why I asked, really. Guess I've just had an odd feeling all day. Like deja vu? You been here before? No, I hate that feeling. It's whatever the opposite of that would be. The unnerving certainty that you're in uncharted waters. Scary stuff. "8:32 p.m., August 14th. Morgan's apartment. Icaria, Blue Blood, Megs, Orcas. Dirty cops and criminal informants. Lines drawn back and forth across a battlefield like a spider's suspension bridge. Dizzying in its complexity, frail along any given strand. But one wrong move and you're completely ensnared. Priorities. The Icaria don't care about who tore through Creek's gang, but they would prefer Sosuke doesn't spend life in prison for killing a cop. The Blue Bloods want to tear Sosuke's throat out. But if Han's taken at her word, they're settling for 5 counts of murder. Can I take Han at her word? Is she a young blood like Creek, or is she with the old guard? Could I have asked London that? If I had, could I have trusted his answer? Yeah, golden bicycle? I guess there's like orange lights, so maybe some of this is just meant to be like reflecting that. But I like the idea that she has like a bright gold bicycle and like coat stand. Because it turns out Kasim London is much, much harder to read than I anticipated. And I can't even trust my client to act in his own self-interest. That man's a bodyguard by trade and a zealot for his house. Trial starts tomorrow. Do I still need more information? Is there time to find it? No, what I need right now is a nightcap. If I can't fall asleep, then I'll know I'm in trouble. Until then, guess sleep will have to wait. It's unlocked.
Pardon me for dropping in at such a late hour, Counselor Morgan.
Standing there in my doorway, she cut through the light like a blade of spilt ink. But twice as sharp and not nearly as familiar. It is outside of normal consultation hours, miss. She purses her lips. Like lily petals shying away from the moonlight.
Jesus, Morgan.
What's a smirk by any other name? She's going like haiku film noir mode.
Please, call me Mireille.
Any last name, Mireille? The question floats in the air like curling cigarette smoke.
Possibly Mireille. I'm not 1,000,000% sure.
I could tell she was used to the smell.
I'll leave that up to your imagination.
Self-assured and unapologetic, the unspoken family name loud as a signature. Written in blood. You're from House Icaria.
Might I step inside?
She blinks. Her head turns a millimeter. A forked tongue testing the temperature of the air. She wasn't asking for permission. Just you? What about your friends in the hallway? She raises an eyebrow but keeps staring at the floor. She's surprised at my perception of the unseen threat, but not quite impressed.
I don't think they need to join us. Do you?
She was the kind of woman to make you remember. Smoking could kill. How can I be of service, Mireille?
You're already being quite accommodating, both to me and my family's interests.
This is very... She gets special pixelated clouds.
I love that the visual element of possibly a hologram fake like imitation of a fluffy boa almost, but that looks like it could be cigarette smoke also.
Oh yeah. I hadn't even considered that it might be supposed to be something more normal, like an accessory. And it's especially the way that she does have the cigarette holder and the smoke is not animated the same way. Some kind of ridiculous mafia family fashion statement.
It's like having a mini fog machine as a collar.
Oh my god.
I came here tonight to be of service to you. I understand that you're somewhat new to this underworld of ours.
I'm grateful for the offer, Mireille. But inexperienced as I am, I've gathered that House Icaria didn't come into its fortune by being generous.
Would you like to know how House Icaria did come into its fortune?
I know you operate a lending corporation with a significantly diversified portfolio.
Yes, the good old IFG. The public face of the Icaria criminal empire, clean-shaven as it's become. And?
I know you founded a pharmaceutical company and profited immensely when it went public.
And before that?
I know your family became nobility during the years of civil unrest. No doubt by being well positioned when the time came to re-privatize our nation's industries.
Yes. And before that,
I know you slaughtered the Blue Bloods 30 years ago.
very good, Counselor Morgan. You've acclimated to our waters remarkably fast.
What I don't know is why Makoto Ikaria has been the target of multiple kidnapping attempts over the past year.
You can't fathom a guess as to why the Blue Bloods might want to ransom the family's heir?
That's the only guess I can make. It strikes me as shallow. Nothing more dangerous than waters you don't know the depth of.
As you said, 30 years ago, the Ikaria cartel, an unrecognizable band of brutes and drug smugglers compared to today, massacred the respectable Blue Bloods and left their geriatric leadership to die on the vine. But we thrust the knife much deeper than that A+ expression.
Oh yeah. I'm very fond of her already. You went after their heirs?
And their entire future. Are you familiar with genetic factor authentication?
Using DNA as a password.
But, specifically, easier than memorizing a string 3 billion characters long.
But GFA's fallen out of favor, hasn't it?
The Blue Bloods made ample use of it back then.
A bad bet.
They already had all their offshore accounts, business titles, property deeds. The Blue Bloods thought they had already won, that they were establishing a dynasty. So, as they made their political marriages, they bound their alliances and fortunes in literal blood. GFA was both a financial and symbolic laundering of the Blue Bloods' past. Their children, now married, clean-cut, and perfectly respectable, would prosper alongside wealth no longer tainted by ill-gotten gains. So that GFA registry became the Ikaria's checklist. We went through and crossed out anyone that could have accessed those funds. Now, all of it sits untouchable overseas in encrypted digital warehouses and some of the oldest, most austere banks in the world. Collecting interest that will never be claimed. Does that answer your question as to why they target Makoto?
No, you know it doesn't. Because if they thought they could lock you out of your coffers by killing Makoto, they wouldn't be trying to take him alive.
You're paying attention. I like that. We don't use GFA, and Makoto is the heir to House Ikaria, the Ikaria Financial Group. He'd never be tied to our legitimate banking information.
Why not? What if he wants to buy a lollipop?
A lollipop would be provided for him. The family's black market proceeds, and its white market holdings must never mix.
You divided your house right down the middle. Pardon the expression, but how can you stand?
Atop the backs of many.
And you all take this division that seriously?
Deadly seriously. That is our family's rule dating back centuries. Either you serve the house, or you serve its interests. Never both.
So, you're assigned to either the criminal organization, what's registered as the IFG, or to managing the family's legitimate business holdings like Renigen. But that means you
Are nearly as much as an outsider to the Ikaria financial group as you are.
Nearly is doing a lot of work there. Who do you answer to, then? Who controls the Ikaria's legitimate empire?
Until Makoto marries? His mother.
And I take it Makoto isn't solely responsible for the house's affairs at his age?
Makoto wields great authority as the heir, but yes, the house is led by his father Raphael, and more directly by his grandfather. Our patrician, Daisuke Ikaria.
I see. But that puts me back where I started. The Blue Bloods want to hold Makoto hostage to gain leverage on the likes of Daisuke.
How can I put this? Had things gone even slightly different 30 years ago, the Blue Bloods would be the ones shaking hands with politicians, marrying ambassadors, and sitting in boardrooms. Some of them believe it can still be so, if the right match were made.
They want to marry into House Ikaria. But Makoto's... and all the real Blue Bloods are older than...
They'd find an age-appropriate adoption. You're missing the point. They need Makoto alive and well to negotiate that kind of reversal of fortune.
So they've been trying to capture him for the past year. But every Blue Blood I met today seems to care a lot more about getting revenge for their dead men than kidnapping a preteen.
How many of them do you think Sosuke's cut down in the last year he spent repelling their attempts?
Is that a source of internal conflict? If the old guard are throwing young bloods into an Ikaria shredder en masse trying to capture Makoto just to elevate themselves, I suppose that all might total up to enough motivation for them to torture Sosuke, yeah.
I had heard Sosuke was wounded. No one informed me that he had been tortured.
You know him, I take it.
As you've gathered, Sosuke deals in matters unrelated to my side of the family. But he is still family. Speaking of my side, I have a duty as a representative of my wing of the house to stress that we do not want this trial to be prolonged.
So the beam counters don't care for the extra attention. That makes sense. Do you care about the outcome?
A win is always preferable.
But not a necessity. Makoto Ikaria hired me to prove Sosuke's innocence. If he's the one signing the checks.
Say why he hired you. He hired you for 2 reasons. Reason 1, his options are limited. More limited than he suggested, no doubt, to keep a strong front. The entire house is currently being audited by the state. Our usual legion of lawyers and accountants are already billing hours as fast as they can, so he wouldn't have his pick of the litter.
So one half of the family can't talk business at the dinner table with the other half, but you share a pool of lawyers?
Lawyers can be trusted to be discreet, can they not?
Yeah, we can read between the lines.
So then you'll understand reason 2. Whatever lawyer he did find through the Ikaria's usual connections would, like me, do whatever's best for the house as a whole.
And not what's best for Sosuke.
I'll make an amendment. 3 reasons. Makoto knew that if he didn't assign him any lawyer, Sosuke would just stay silent as the state dragged him off to be chained, rather than inconvenience the house any further.
Well, yeah. I've known Sosuke for less than a day, and even I can tell he's never seen a cross he wouldn't jump at the opportunity to bear.
What is he, a tabletop character made by me?
That explains why Makoto would hire someone without connections to the Ikaria. You slow-rolling another addendum that'll clear up why on earth my name came across his desk? Littered with crayons and times tables, as I'm sure it was.
He hates him.
Well, yeah, why would he want a lollipop when he can have crayons?
He can have toys.
Toys.
I hope I've been able to elucidate matters for you, Counselor Morgan.
Masterfully subtle way to say we're done talking.
Now, I might ask you for a small favor in return. Pass this message to Sosuke. If you see a way out, take it.
Do you understand what you're asking him to do? Even if Sosuke took a plea bargain, even if I somehow got the other charges reduced to manslaughter, self-defense, the state thinks he killed a cop.
The message is for Sosuke, not you. Your interpretation of it is irrelevant.
Good talk. End of conversation. As she reaches the exit, she turns back to look at me. Lingering in the doorway like the warm buzz of a strong, dark cocktail.
But your assessment is correct. If this were just 4 dead blue bloods, our dim little underworld could balance out the ledger unassisted. If that cop hadn't shown up last night.
Do you know something about the late Officer Chopin?
City in mourning after death of city's councilman's beloved adoptive son in the line of duty. All I know is that his funeral dirge will make those 4 boys' deaths sound like a disinterested sigh. By the way, I must admit you have a lovely apartment, Counselor.
Changing subjects as subtly as a bullet train hopping its tracks.
Quite spacious for a defense attorney.
Yeah, place wouldn't sell after the tram route got diverted. I negotiated down the rent and then installed all the soundproofing myself.
Can't open the windows without being treated to the sounds of the city, then.
There's always a cost.
That's one mystery solved, then, isn't it? Enjoy the rest of your quiet evening, Counselor.
Ominous. The door glides to a close behind her, easy as a question left unasked. I'm left here hanging on a single held breath of stillness, listening as the deafening thud of her honor guard's implied violence stomps down the hallway behind her.
Morgan, you're down bad.
Yeah, this has been like hornier than anything else in these games.
Anything else that doesn't involve Amma. That's openly murder horny.
Yeah, not quite the same thing. I've been formulating a joke. Let me think. I asked the Blue Bloods how many of their people they've lost to the Hound of Icaria, and they said they just hire someone new every time he kills them. So I said it sounds like they're just feeding new recruits to him. And they started crying. Okay, real quick.
I need to find that recording where I read the FF14 version of that meme.
Hardy cloth bindings, stiff with dried blood, cut with something sharp. We had GFA, genetic factor authentication, password security system wherein a live blood sample is provided in combination with a username and passkey. Can only be conducted in person with the sample acquired by a trained on-site professional. Because of the physical realities of the verification process, GFA is considered cryptographically secure, cannot be bypassed or hacked in any traditional sense. While some security systems and cryptographic algorithms incorporate biological elements in one or more ways, GFA as it was originally developed has gone largely unadopted throughout the business world. Few corporations are interested in tying information or resources to specific bloodlines as opposed to specific groups, and their verification process itself is inconvenient for most, while totally unusable for anyone working remotely. GFA is still offered, however, at some of the most prestigious and secure banks in the world, and families with particularly long lineages have been known to favor GFA for what are effectively symbolic reasons. Because GFA remains accessible to any past or future offspring of the initial registries, it is sometimes offered as a wedding or baby shower gift for couples intending to set up trusts. Users also frequently searched for how to change lost password fast. Mire, Icaria, October 1st. Occupation representative. Likes sipping alcohol, rubbing alcohol, arachnids.
Alcohol.
Dislikes sunrises, black tea, photographers. Favorite smell? Dojo floors. The best at making use of people, the worst at hiding my distaste. What is that? That's a, like... I feel like that... I wonder if this counts as that, like, figure of speech. Where you kind of set up a phrase that contrasts two things that are both grammatically correct but like mutually exclusively in the same sentence. Or like one thing is literal and one is metaphorical or something. I don't remember what it's called. But I also like the idea that alcohol made for drinking is called sipping alcohol.
It might actually mean that she likes sipping alcohol.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It's like the intended is she likes to sip alcohol, the act of sipping alcohol, and she likes the substance known as rubbing alcohol. But I like the idea that either they're both verbs or they're both adjectives.
She loves to rub alcohol in her skin.
Like it's like her own version of like people who really get into like popping pimples or like peeling off sunburns. I was still leaned back in my chair, staring holes into my ceiling, long after the scent of her expensive tobacco had faded into null. Savoring it while it lasted was beyond me at the moment. My attention's elsewhere. This case is knotted and twisted like a gnarled oak. Just when I think I've found my rhythm, the blade runs dull. Carving is an exercise in patience and vision. You need to start with a clear picture of what you want. I want some answers. But for now, I'll sleep. Tomorrow in court, I'll just have to keep whittling away at the wood until I fashion something halfway usable. And, well, if that doesn't work, I'll use a chainsaw. Who the hell is this? Hey, cool kid. Yes, you. Trying to look all stoic, staring out the window. A little late to try and look detached after that thing you pulled the other day. So that wasn't a joke, making that announcement in front of the class? You trying to start a detective club or something? What mysteries? Disappearing cleaning supplies? Books not getting returned to the library? Sounds lame. Well, not like that's your fault. Everything's lame. Good luck finding members. Everyone around here already knows what they're gonna do after school. And tomorrow. And next year. They're all staring down the barrel of a lucrative career in telling other companies how to provide web services, or whatever the hell this school's supposed to train us for. A lawyer. If you say so, cool kid. The Megs will probably have robots doing that by the time you graduate, but sure. Law school's supposed to be hard to get into. You'll need a record that doesn't suck. Getting a club you started shut down because you couldn't get anyone to join probably won't help. Wow, so confident. You really are a cool kid. Hold on. 11:42 the next morning. State Building. Floor 48. It depends on how long her morning routine is, but going to bed around 9, between 8:30 and 9, like, a full 8 hours would have been 5 in the morning, and she didn't need to be anywhere until almost noon.
Boy, we are just getting an eyeful of his titties. Morgan, please, this is...
Hold still and relax. This'll be over soon.
I thought you were joking about the makeup.
Of course I wasn't joking. A face like yours is invaluable in the courtroom.
You think covering me in concealer and blush and applying eyeliner will help me appeal to what demographic exactly?
You know the names of all this stuff?
I'm a modern man. I know the names of many things, including makeup. Is that your eyebrow gel?
Yes.
It's cakey.
Do you want to do the rest? I think some of the jury might find that his wounds make him look rugged. And furthermore, from an aesthetic perspective, leaving some of his buttons undone will...
Excuse me?
You're clearly a very devoted martial artist, Sasuke. You should be proud to display your well-defined collarbones as the fruit of your efforts.
Oh, my collarbones.
Just hold still. Appearances matter in the courtroom. 95% of defendants who are ever seen in prison garb at trial are found guilty.
I don't doubt your tactics work, Morgan.
Hello, welcome. Love Sarah's collarbone thing so much. She's developed such a fixation on him. My tactics include getting your suit pressed. Do you want me to wrinkle it back up?
I just find them unpalatable. Trying to get the jury, these civilians, to pity me is shameful.
You're worried about honor, really? You're already a cybernetic ninja, Sasuke. Don't be a stereotype.
Don't call other people stereotypes.
He's right, Adane. And he's more of a cybernetic samurai, since he's sworn himself to a wealthy land-owning noble. I'm confused, Sosuke. Is it honorable how your family makes their money? Made their money?
I'm not talking about morality, I'm talking about having principles. Yes, they're subjective, and yes, they can be hypocritical. But the further you stray from the common path, the more you need them. I mean, what about her? What about her? What would Sarah be like if she didn't have the tenets to guide her programming?
I assume this is going to be the same thing that we saw, but tenets is just the, like, term for coded, like, guidelines.
It's the Asimov's laws taken to an extreme.
Yep. Originated as the same 3 laws, and then kind of just expanded from there. Built in, coded in, like, how to act and how not to act as an android. Or as any sort of automated dependent, really. I can only imagine. But some people, believe it or not, enjoy their freedoms.
Adrift in the middle of the ocean, you're free to go in whatever direction you want. Without a compass, you'll just die of exposure.
If you only ever follow exactly what the compass says, you'll sail north until you freeze to death.
The point is, if you have a compass, you know which direction north is.
Fortunate for us all, then, that the state is a 1,000,000 megawatt North Star, pointing towards complacency at all times. And the media is like the wind. And without the wind, you'll get stuck in the tide.
It was a nice try, Sarah. Forget it. Do whatever you want with your brushes, woman.
And you're pouting again. Great. Sarah, just keep him talking.
What if I'm talking? How will you...
Trust me, I've done more delicate work before. Sarah, small talk. Gladly, Adane. Sosuke, do you happen to have any tattoos?
The jury going to ask about that or something?
They might.
Oh. Well, yes, as a matter of fact, I do have a tattoo. A komainu on my back.
Komainu. A guardian dog.
Oh, komainu.
Komainu.
I didn't emphasize the split between the vowels enough.
You have a tattoo of a dog?
It's a fierce guardian deity.
Like a Labrador, or...
Like a great, fierce... A big dog.
Perhaps you should have it changed to some other design, like, say, like a dragon. Oh, I get it.
Cannot stop themselves. There's no switching.
It's... The fact that it's so often such a blatant turn-to-the-camera reference that goes completely unaddressed does make it circle back around from, like... If it was only a tiny bit more subtle, it would be, like, annoying, but it's... it's camp enough to be, like, charming again.
And I can't even get mad because it never even approaches the level of the fucking clown in in the second Phoenix Wright game reciting the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air lyrics when being whipped.
Ugh. I had no frame of reference for where that was going to go.
Well,
I think I've seen the entire first game and then precisely enough of the second game to start that case. And then...
oh, like Lena's streams?
Yeah, I think that's where she's got to.
Yeah.
So
Weird. I can't believe that the circus case is what killed that project. Who would ever expect that? Anyway.
Like, I think there technically may have been other factors at play, but that... there was obvious things about that case that did not help the circumstances. The buyer's remorse must be unbearable.
There's no buyer's remorse.
I think the Koma Inu is the, like... It is the pretty common, like, guardian representation that, like, sometimes... not necessarily accurately is considered this, but sometimes gets called, like, a lion dog.
Yeah, it's often seen on statues on pedestals.
It is a pretty cool critter. Lift your chin.
You really think they'll feel bad for me because of some cuts and scrapes?
You're not good at listening to instructions, are you?
That dog.
The prosecution has to get 12 strangers to agree that you killed 5 men. Each charge has to be unanimous, a perfect score. So any chip damage we can do, any doubt we can sow, we take it. And any advantage we're given, we make full use of it.
The advantage you're talking about is my face.
Are you really not used to this kind of attention, Sasuke?
It may be true that at times some women have expressed.
And Finn, no doubt.
All I'm saying is that there's a difference between knowing your strengths and powdering up like this.
Pretend it's war paint.
Is that how you see it?
No, but I'm a grown-up. Mean to him. Thank you for entertaining my questions last night, Sasuke. Did she ask you about your dimensions? The subject might have come up.
She's a talkative one, isn't she?
Sorry if she kept you up all night.
No, she's no trouble, just curious. Reminds me of... we discussed history.
Oh, well then, she must have put you right to sleep. Tonight it was his choice of subject. So, you read history, Sasuke? Here I assumed you spent all your free time frowning in the corners of rooms with your arms crossed. We talked about the Roman Empire, for your information.
And criminal empires.
Nothing too detailed, I hope. But, Sasuke, I still don't understand. What did you mean when you said criminal organizations used to be structured differently?
Only that the old ways don't fit in our new 21st century world.
Old ways?
Well,
He's talking about race, Sarah. Race? I don't understand. Well, that's to be expected. After all, you share 98% of your components with a washing machine. That is an untrue and unflattering comparison. Maybe you do get it.
Look, Sarah. Names like Mafia, Gokuro, Sanhehui, they all come from different cultures, but they all refer to a kind of path. An outsider's path, and the pride that comes with living by your own set of rules.
The Trailblaze.
Those were the first criminal organizations. Underground guilds, lending systems, militias, secret societies.
Oh, sure. They were basically just big friendly charities.
And the world got smaller. And people started moving around, and the mafia changed. It became a way for immigrants to band together to have some kind of power in places they wouldn't normally give them a chance at anything remotely respectable. But the world kept getting smaller and more complex, and eventually that kind of community couldn't form, let alone survive.
Why?
Not enough shared experiences.
Shared experiences. I see. Fancy way of saying the internet came along.
Well, yes. God. Technology negates the physical distance between people. When you spend most of your life online, you end up with more in common with people on the other side of the planet than your own neighbors. It's because of where your recommendations take you.
So the immigrant experience disappeared?
Fractured, more like. Cracked into a million shards with a hammer. While generational or economic experiences got cemented. The world is more diverse and varied than it's ever been, in every sense. Except economically.
Wealth inequality is at historical highs.
As it has been every year for...
Since before I was born.
Answer your question, Sarah. That's what binds the members of a criminal organization to one another. Their socioeconomic status. House Sicaria is at the top. The Blue Bloods lie below us. Within each organization, wealth is concentrated among the leadership, of course. Oh my god. But each mafia exists in entirely different strata.
I see. I've also read about an organization called the Rust being active here in the city. Are they in the poverty class, then?
Rust? I'd put them in the anarchy class. Glowing tattoos and spiked hairs, chrome biceps and sharpened teeth. Blue Bloods, for all their faults, can put on a tie and go to work, but I can't see the Rust experiencing any kind of social mobility. So yes?
Careful, Sosuke.
Why did I do that? Fuck.
If the Rust heard you being that classist...
The Rust wouldn't care about anything I said or who I stand with. They don't need any excuse to start ripping open modders and grabbing whatever they can.
Things like that happen in this city.
Only in the shadows, Sarah. Nowhere you'd ever find yourself.
Finally run out of steam.
On to the grim business, then. How'd things go with your investigation? That bad, was it?
Nonsense. It was pretty bad. With what I've seen so far, there's no one else who could have killed Chopin. Even if I managed to pick apart all the evidence for the pod's deaths. They've got a police officer who will swear on the stand that he arrested Sosuke standing over his partner's dead body.
What's it going to look like in there?
You've never been inside a courtroom.
Never as a defendant. I'm just wondering how many cops I should expect. Oh.
In the gallery, a sea of blue. Cheap intimidation tactics.
Yes, but I can't fault them for that. Yes, you can.
You can.
Sosuke, you do not under any circumstances have to hand it to him. We'd line up much the same for one of ours.
Yeah, but yours...
Sosuke.
Yours is...
Sosuke Bosuke.
Sasuke, for one, yours is more of a, like... Yours is more unified. Like, along things that actually matter. You say that, and yet I don't see any other Ikaria around.
This is a completely different scenario. And the house can't afford to appear besides a cop killer when they're being audited by the state.
How understanding of you. Adonai, I think Sasuke is sad that his friends haven't shown up. Good catch. You were hired by Makoto of House Ikaria, weren't you, Adonai? Surely he would want to be in attendance.
Don't be absurd. Makoto shouldn't be transported anywhere without a full security team. Besides which, he shouldn't be put through the long elevator ride to this 48th floor just for my sake.
What's so bad about an elevator ride? Is he claustrophobic?
No. That is, yes, but... Cannot tell anyone, understand?
Who the hell would I tell that to?
Right.
Look, it's illegal to stream trial proceedings under most circumstances, but I'm sure House Ikaria doesn't mind paying a fine. They'll be watching from somewhere in the courtroom.
That would be a waste of the house's coin. But I suppose they might consider keeping an eye on the case's progression.
As will the Blue Bloods, no doubt. Adonai, I think Sasuke's spirits have rallied. Really? How can you tell? Here comes trouble.
I love how every time she first appears, it's in a wall of light that you cannot see past.
Yeah?
She occupies the entirety of Morgan's vision whenever she makes herself known.
Ever so slightly evocative of, like, a rom-com encounter. All we need is some, like, flowers popping up on screen. He lifted his gaze, and his eyes seemed brighter, as if... Good, now try and keep his spirits high. How do I do that?
You know, I didn't pick up on it the first time that that Morgan absolutely is wearing the same expression Sarah just is describing.
Think of something fun. Right. Sasuke, shall we arm wrestle? I will say, well, obviously, like, she does this yawn. Say what?
I said now I'm in character.
She always does this yawn sprite that's a little, like, a little goofy looking, but it's too bad we haven't, like, at least up to this point, maybe later in episode 2, but we haven't quite gotten the, like, sheer Emma dichotomy from her introduction in episode 0, from the, like, silhouetted in a doorway looking like a, like, slasher smile or something, into, like, being properly illuminated and looking like the biggest ditz in the universe.
Why?
What?
Like?
I mean,
Just
you
because
know.
she's a genius doesn't stop her.
Yeah. Like we've mostly been seeing her on the job, so she's been effective, but it never goes away.
Oh,
Gap Moe for sure.
good morning, Morgan.
Good morning, Emma.
I swear to God, sorry, hold on. My grocery delivery every 2 minutes has been sending me a "we're sorry, we're running late" notification, which I get twice, both from their app and the text messages, and so my phone is buzzing constantly.
Oh my
The
god.
ETA isn't even like till 4:30. I don't know why they're doing this. I'm throwing the phone away.
Right in the garbage. It's sad that it had to happen.
That's sad.
You seem tired. Want to push this off till next week?
Actually, that sounds. Hey.
Sorry. But we'll be facing
Well,
off soon enough.
I guess it would more. I got so distracted, like being possessed by the Spider Verse. Hey, but definitely meant more to be like, hey.
We'll be facing off soon enough. Why not savor the playfulness while we still can?
Fair enough.
Losing sleep over this case?
Not really. No, things look pretty cut and dry to me. What about you? You toss and turn all night before your big debut as a mob lawyer?
Not at all. I slept like a rock.
Lucky. I mean, I've been getting good rest, more or less. Just been having a lot of late nights recently.
Late nights? Like going out?
It's a yandere moments. No.
Oh, late nights? Like you've been spending them with someone other than me? Who said that?
The heartbeat.
Ah,
Just late night chats.
chatting about what?
Look at all of them. Never seen so many cops in one building. They'd bring a marching band into the courtroom if they could. Theater.
Right. Well, theater and trial weren't all that far apart back in ancient Greece.
Hold on. Oh no, I'm losing her. I gotta turn on the autistic swag. Would hope we'd progressed since then.
You don't approve of this show of force, I take it?
That obvious? Like to say this is because of who Chopin's family is, but we both know that's not what this is really about. The cop is dead. The state wants to make it clear that that isn't tolerated.
Cops volunteer to defend our laws and protect us citizens.
Volunteers don't get paid. Besides, cops, courts, the state, all they can do is enforce the laws, not defend them. Guns and arms can't defend against corrosion anyway. Rot comes from the deep.
Dark Souls line.
Rot comes from the deep.
So, you'd rather that the death of a police officer get the same treatment as any other citizen?
Suppose that's not possible. They had increasingly fewer chances to play the victim every year, and they never let the opportunity pass. Now, I guess the best I could hope for is that the state makes the same show of force whenever any crime is committed.
Jesus.
If they treated every death like the death of a cop, maybe I could have caught HBK by now.
You're still on that?
Of course, shooting deaths are down, but do you know how many missing persons cases there are in this city? How many deaths get written up as mod harvesting attacks gone wrong? It's a big city, Morgan. More than enough blood running through the streets for HBK to launder their kills in.
You shouldn't joke like that.
What? You don't believe me? This last month, missing person. The report was filed by their employer when they didn't show up to work, 7 days after they had last been seen by anyone. They were just some part-time worker, no close friends, no family. They went to work, and they came home, paid their bills. They disappeared. And no one cared or even noticed until their job didn't get done and those bills went unpaid. No one noticed until they stopped buying in. The body was found a full 2 weeks later. The decay was...
What happened to them?
blunt force to the back of the head. Something metallic, with a sharp corner, we think.
It was a roughly cubed machine part I pulled from a dumpster nearby. It fit snugly in my hand, and it caved through his skull like a shovel through snow.
Into the bay. Might not have even been weighed down. It's thrown away like a cheap...
That's terrible. Did you find any belongings on them?
No.
So probably a mugging then, right?
No. There would have been other injuries from a struggle. And a thief who accidentally committed murder would be too panicked, too terrified to...
You know how muggers think now?
They can learn how anyone thinks. Even HBK with a robust enough profile.
Well, good luck building it all by your lonesome.
I'm not working on this by myself. Oh, sorry, right. You want to beg for mercy real quick before we begin?
Now where would be the fun in that? Such a, indicator of Emma's effectiveness that she, The missing persons case she brings up does happen to be one of the ones that Morgan is responsible for.
I love that Morgan's yandere impulses went away the second she said, anyway, I'm still thinking about HBK, and then they came back the second that it became, oh, I'm working on it with other people.
Courtroom 48D. The courtroom gallery is quite full today, isn't it? Awash in a sea of pissed-off cops.
Wash in a sea of piss.
Yuck.
It doesn't exactly show what one's confidence, does it?
Ugh. Five counts of murder would be newsworthy any day of the week. Add in the fact that one of the bodies belongs to a cop and a crowd was to be expected. Didn't think they'd be so quiet, though. Maybe they're all just waiting for the firing pistol before they start casting their stones. Don't let it get to you, Sosuke. They're just posturing.
Posturing, I understand. I've been attendance for my share of these tense negotiations. But the bloodlust in those rooms was always mutual.
You don't feel any animosity towards these cops?
What's wrong with you? That's cringe. I'm used to summoning my temper on command. I might have forgotten how to get angry for my own sake.
You just worry about the jury.
Jury worry? What about the adjutant? It cannot be intimidated by muscle, bribed with cash, or disarmed with fine tailoring. All of which makes them quite favored when it comes to prosecuting organized crime.
Have you been in court many times before, then?
It's an eye for an eye in the world we operate in. We don't file assault charges, we just answer them. Though even that has become rare. The house is elevated. Blue Bloods and Rust and all the rest of the rabble are beyond their reach now. And when it comes to our peers, we communicate very differently.
Must make being a bodyguard pretty boring. I think your work sounds very rewarding and exciting, Sasuke.
Thank you. I should take my meds real fast. Huh?
Especially the other day when you were captured and beaten by your rivals.
Yes. What I was trying to hint at, Morgan, is that you should not be expecting assistance from the house.
Honestly, the thought hadn't crossed my mind. Do you need a minute to do that, or are you able to...
Oh, no, I already took them. I just wanted to flag it because the who was getting lines was passing back and forth rapidly, and I wasn't sure if I'd get caught with my meds in my mouth.
Oh, gotcha. Being on the winning side for once. Somehow immediately forgot. Oh. What the hell would that even feel like? So there wouldn't be any men in black approaching the jury during lunch and offering them paper bags of cash?
She looks so sad. No.
My life nothing like a movie, for real. Well, if we do really bad, we won't even make it to lunch, so... Sasuke, what are you staring at? Are you looking for the jury?
No, I know they aren't here. It used to be mandated that juries be physically present for court proceedings. People felt it was important they look the accused in the eye.
To help them evaluate their character? Why bother? Most people suck at that. Always have.
True. Perhaps it was considered part of the punishment then. Have to look them in their eyes.
A punishment for the jury or the defendant? Alright, kiddos, chins up, shoulders out. Show's about to start. Ah, I just remembered. Do you think the adjutant assigned to this particular case...
Obviously, it's gonna be me. Obviously. I mean, that's a gimme. Easy.
How? It's 80. What are the chances? There should be at least 83 other personalities in the building's network. At least.
Well, Your Honor, thank you for... citing so honorably? I do try. Try. Because it's a try-all. Tougher crowd than usual. That's not counting all the grim monoliths standing tall out there in the gallery.
Hold on.
Quick, 84, start telling dead cop jokes.
Good old Grim Monolith.
Who died? Oh, thank you. 5 people, Your Honor. Yikes! What's the damage? 2 counts of manslaughter in the second degree, 2 counts of manslaughter, 2 counts of homicide in the second degree, and 1 count of homicide in the first degree.
Interesting.
Buddy, trying to set a gold split with all that? What's the record-setting grind? What's with the record-setting grind set? Prosecution stands ready. So, shall we begin?
Let's get that 80 profile real quick before we... I just realized that it's a little funny having a listed date of birth.
I'm sorry. I'm just kind of taking in the energy of 3 80s on screen at once and a 4th blurry in the background.
Maximizing. Automated dependent adjutant likes mountain air, gymnasts, luxury. Dislikes happy couples who ask you to take their photo. Pineapple on pizza until proven guilty. Shopping carts always returned. Favorite quote, let he who is without sin play first or draw first. It's like that Christian trading card game that's weirdly popular.
There's one that's weirdly popular?
Yeah, and not among Christians. Like
I knew that I know about I forget if it's like Revelation, it's something like that like has a tiny bit of an irony following, but like also I don't think has been contributed to in like 2 decades.
I think that's the one. Like even if it's like somewhat to mostly an irony following, it does have like an active player base.
Oh, okay. Maybe I should learn it. It's not like there's a point in learning magic.
I don't know, I figured it out. But there's something wrong with me.
Oh no, I just mean like by this point, like hold on, let me learn how to play this sinking ship.
I guess that's fair.
That's just to me.
All right.
Oh, should we begin? Credit's always good here.
Oh, this is fun.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Import Persona 5 final. Import Persona. Interesting. I should try to get a screenshot of that sometime. See what they'll say. Now let's crack open those opening statements and get this case summarized.
I don't think it did that in episode 1.
Nope.
Although I guess technically neither of the trials in episode 1 was quite the, like, momentum of this one. They kind of just cascaded into being more important than expected.
Gladly, Your Honor. People of the court. The defendant in this case is a man named Sosuke Ikaria. He was found at the scene of the crime where 2 men were shot to death. One was stabbed in the neck, another had their skull bashed in. And a police officer was impaled through the back with a sword.
Cop-killing piece of shit.
Please pardon any outbursts from the gallery that your mics may inadvertently pick up. Now, I understand the scale of violence on display here today may intimidate you. But I want to stress to all of you now that your responsibility here today is neither taxing nor complex. You will hear the testimony, you will be shown evidence, and all of it will point towards the truth. That the defendant is the only individual who could have possibly committed these crimes. That is a simple fact. And the only one you need concern yourself with Oh, she's cold as ice. But every ice age beckons a kindling. Or as ashes call to cinders and embers form champions.
Defense is ready, Your Honor. Emma did stick to cold logic, so if I follow her up with more of the same, it'll end up falling flat. This gallery will never warm up to us. But that can work to our advantage, if the jury comes to see these cops as witch hunters eager to start a pyre. Heads up. Choose the most outlandish words you can.
Yes.
Go for broke. It's not like Masters never taught me anything. I know how to do the razzle-dazzle. My fellow citizens, you were brought here today because an act of violence took place that could only be described as unspeakable. I should know, I was there. I saw the blood on the ground, the bullet holes in the walls, felt the... I do like malevolence here, but...
It does sound like the most over-the-top to my ears. But I also don't remember which the one is.
Felt the malevolence that radiated in the air. It feels slightly more leading, in a way that's not necessarily conducive to defending Sosuke, but...
They said go most extreme.
Yeah. And I also saw where my client was held prisoner. And I knew exactly where he must have stood, because his sweat and blood had stained the tile. My client, a decorated veteran, the man you see standing next to me here, not even fully healed from his torture, was taken into police custody with lacerations, bruises, internal bleeding, broken bones. And while he was in police custody, he somehow sustained a black eye, a busted lip, a broken nose, and a boxed ear. A puzzle which I'm sure any one of the officers in the gallery today would be happy to testify about.
She's so awesome.
You gonna let her say that?
You want me to object during an opening statement?
Much is resting on the outcome of this trial. 5 men lie dead in the morgue. One of them, a police officer, Tariq. Don't speak
his name, you mob lawyer bitch! Hang him up! Hang her too! Sorry, I felt like cracking out my goon voices.
That's totally fair.
This is... Hey, we like to have fun in this courtroom, put on a good show. That's because we're on the stage. Any more outbursts from the gallery, and I'll clear the entire room. You can all watch the rest on your phones, or peek in through the keyhole like a bunch of sweaty looky-loos. Counselor, let's wrap this up.
Yes, Your Honor. The fact of the matter is, on that night, my client was not in any condition to kill anyone. Not 4 hardened criminals, and certainly not a trained police officer. And nothing about my client's background, his associations, or that of the victims can change that fact. So as you listen to all the evidence in this trial, with fairness and impartiality, as I know you will strive to, I only ask that you focus on the reality of this horrible crime and not on the fiction that the people will try to weave for you. Thank you.
Decorated veteran?
You telling me you never earned a single commendation? Most push-ups of the day or something?
Never mind. I suppose it could have gone much worse.
You're too kind.
I was trying to be honest. The crowd got agitated, but you maintained a level head and recovered your tempo.
Tonight is a master at doing so. I've seen her make comebacks from the most nonsensical mistakes before. In martial arts, they call it an ukemi, a graceful fall. I think a bird just flew by.
In FGC, they call that a wake up special. It is basically correct.
Well, try not to gracefully fall over when you see the first witness on the docket, Sosuke.
What do you mean by that? Your name and occupation, for the record. Oh God, right. Hold on, I gotta... How can that be necessary? If some blathering idiot in a courtroom doesn't already know who I am, they don't deserve... I know. Would you consider it, if only for the sake of ceremony? Ceremony is important and should be respected. Very well. I am Makoto Ikaria of House Ikaria. My occupation is that of a student.
What did he put in his profile again? Yeah, okay, that adds up. Try not to look so smug about it when you blatantly lie.
I will not. Right, of course. And your position with the Ikaria Financial Group? Oh, well, sorry, Right, of course. And your position with the Ikaria Financial Group? Oh, I can feel the bridge of my nose buzzing from how I am raising my throat voice. Is not salaried. Must I really declare it here?
Hard to imagine why the noble house of Ikaria is getting audited. Sosuke, are you alright?
Can he see us?
He can see me, Rockford, and the adjutant. Witnesses teletestifying don't really need much else.
So he's safe?
Yes, Sosuke, he's safe like he was yesterday. Probably sitting right where I left him, or standing on a box. I think the hologram's given him a boost so he can see over the stand.
It's good.
The boost to his height?
That he's safe at home.
I'm sorry that he can't see you, Sosuke.
You know, this is useful. This is good practice for them to have put both Sosuke and Koda in the same scene.
Yeah.
Well, here I go. I'll do my best. Don't be. After how horribly I failed him, I'd like you to speak a bit about the events of August 13th. About the last time you saw the defendant, Sosuke Ikaria. I'm here today, not physically, but here nonetheless, as a courtesy. That does not mean I will flap my gums like some sort of flapping gum puppet.
Permission to treat the witness as hostile incoming. Emma Rockford raking a spoiled brat over the coals. This'll almost be worth the price of admission alone.
He so rarely makes that one genuine, unsettling smile.
Yeah.
I understand. It was a traumatic experience, I'm sure. Anyone of normal upbringing would barely be able to recall a single detail, let alone the day's full events. Normal upbringing? I should probably dismiss you so you can get back to your summer studies. Summer studies? Like some common waif? Waif? That's quite the vocab bowl. I didn't know they taught that in State Basic. Basic? Was I mistaken? Listen well, Madam Rockford, as I demonstrate to you exactly how misguided you are about my powers of retention. Please do.
Played like a damn fiddle.
Why wasn't she mentioned during any of our trial preparations?
Atana has only won against her once. So far, every hot streak starts somewhere.
Streak? I really am going to prison, aren't I? Where shall I start? As far back as you can. A simple task. For the past year, members of the organization, most commonly referred to as the Blue Blood Mafia, have been making attempts on my life. Oh God! Oh God! I forgot! Oh Jesus! Here we go! Here we go! Did you steal their lunch money or something?
It's coalesced on you so horribly. I might have to, if they get like Han up here, I might have to rotate in.
Yeah. I am the primary beneficiary of my grandfather, Daisuke Ikaria's will. In common parlance, I am the sole heir. Oh, God. The Ikaria Financial Group. You could buy so much lunch. The group you know as the Blue Bloods have been jealous of my family's financial foresight for decades. I am merely the most recent target of their impotent attempts to nip at our heels. And 2 days ago, on August 13th, how impotent was their attempt then? I was leading a meeting held on the upper floors of Crane Tower. My security detail escorted me to the elevators, where we would then proceed down to the canopy access floors. God, shit. This was all planned out in advance? By my head of security, Sosuke Ikaria. But the elevator became stuck with unnatural timing. When Sosuke pried the doors open, we saw that we were stuck between the 62nd and 61st floors. Right open with a tool?
Leading the witness, Your Honor.
He didn't need a tool to open the doors. His bare hands were more than sufficient.
Help Sosuke out here, kid.
Submit into the evidence the defendant's Akita Type 2 military-grade spinal mod. Designed to enhance strength, endurance, and reflexes for high-intensity combat scenarios. Yes, sir! It is so admitted. What happened next? The decision was made that we would crawl out onto the 61st floor and head for the service elevators. But once Sosuke and I exited, the elevator started up. It was a trap. We had been cut off from the rest of my detail. You were isolated and defenseless. That must have been... Huh. Hardly defenseless. You'd think my personal head of security wouldn't be armed? He had Yoru.
Don't tell me. You named your sword. Oh, great swords have names.
Thank you, Sarah. Very well put. Let the record show that the witness had identified Exhibit B3 as belonging to the defendant.
Go ahead and take a quick peek at that. It's interesting that that got entered, but not the spinal mod. Bladed weapon found at the scene of the crime, impaled into the torso of Tariq Chopin. Steel is chipped at several points, especially the tip. Identified by Makoto as Sosuke's personal sword, Yoru. Taken along with Sosuke down to the lower wards, following an ambush on Makoto.
Oh, that's useful. I never super noticed, but that, they mark the bit that got added as new information as yellow.
Yeah, that's why it's because we already had this, and we learned something new.
Yeah. That's cool.
I guess I'll look at Emma while I'm here.
She's so happy.
February 13th, that was recent. Also, yeah, that is a very cute expression. I don't think we've actually gotten the chance to see it naturally. Occupation, Assistant District Attorney. Likes, Art Museum, Amethyst's turn-based RPGs.
That's right.
Dislikes, ballrooms, boardrooms, clicks. Favorite quote, flower in the mirror, moon on the water. Favorite subject, psychology. Exercises by. Subject seemed not to hear the question.
He's so based.
Oh, she's a gamer.
She's a game girl. The sword was recovered by the police in a known blue blood den in the lower wards. Found impaled into the body of Tariq Chopin. Forensics has shown that the only fingerprints on it are those of the defendant.
There's still time for you to disown it, Sosuke. You understand nothing about a swordsman's heart, Adonai.
Once again, it is your paralegal that has the right of it. Perhaps she should be leading my defense.
If this somehow turns into a fencing competition, I'll gladly defer to you two.
It's not a fencing sword! So you, Sosuke, and Yoru were on the 61st floor together. What happened next? When we arrived at the service elevators, Sosuke called them, and then they made a chime. And I didn't clearly see much of what happened next, to tell the truth. Figures emerged from around the corners. They were aiming weapons at me. A red dot shone on my chest. And then Sosuke was there, and a needle was sticking out of his arm. Yoru glinted. Sosuke had drawn it in the blink of an eye. Something glanced off it and dropped to the floor. I saw a syringe at my feet. Yoru's sheath was thrust into my arms, pushing me back into the elevator, and I landed on my rear. That's clearly a key piece of testimony. Let's play it back 5 times. What matters is he pushed me back into the elevator with Yoru's sheath. How I landed is irrelevant and should be stricken from all public records. The only other thing I saw was Sosuke's back. He slammed his hand against the elevator's control panel, and the doors shut. That's the last time you saw the defendant? The decision was made that I should go get on a VTOL as soon as possible. But much of my details stayed behind to assess what had happened. Yes, they were very helpful to building security and recovering Exhibit 5C, this hypodermic needle gun.
Needle gun and projectiles, found where they were ambushed. Same kind of projectile needles that we found in the room where Sosuke was held. Fingerprints match Creek.
Bonehead would leave evidence like that behind. Bonehead in a rush, perhaps, Your Honor. It does appear to have exhausted its gas canister, so it may have outlived its usefulness.
I take it that this weapon is a match for the projectile needles found in the room where my client was restrained?
Correct. Others exactly like them were recovered from the scene of the ambush as well. Makoto, did you see the faces of the men who attacked you? Oh, all too clearly. I can tell you every detail of their roughshod countenances. Ah, that sounds like a good piece of testimony. Hit it.
Yep, that's right. Needles. Oh, interesting.
A pineapple head. Oh, shoot. They aimed at me, but Sosuke got between us and blocked every shot. With Yoru, he could have closed the distance, but then a dark-eyed scoundrel approached from the right. And a man with a ridiculous pompadour took advantage of that distraction. I'll never forget the faces of those cowards. They tried to kill me.
Wanna bet? They couldn't have been trying to kill the witness. Not with non-lethal projectiles.
They fired a lot of them. The witness doesn't weigh that much.
Don't try it. This attack was clearly planned with the intent of capturing Makoto alive.
Meaning what? That 4 of this case's victims were actually soft-hearted pacifists?
There's nothing soft-hearted about what they did to my client after capturing him. Using tools they clearly originally planned to use on the witness.
So they're sadists? I'm getting confused here. So is the defense, Your Honor. Sadists, that is. What matters is that the witness has identified that the defendant's captors as the 4 blue blood victims that he is accused of murdering.
Makoto did establish that much, but something about this attack still bothers me. Emma put Makoto on the stand specifically to identify the victims. Is it possible that the men who attacked them weren't Creek's pod? I mean, under the... I doubt we can get the... Dark-Eyed Scoundrel would be Trey with the mods. Pompadour would be Creek.
What was a pineapple head-like man and a raincoat-clad hooligan came at us first.
Miller had a raincoat, and I guess... Tanks' hairstyle is kind of pineapple-y. And it feels improbable that, like... it would have been anyone else. When the descriptions match. And I mean, also technically... not that Morgan would know about this, but... we did get the little tease at the beginning of the episode of, like, characters that clearly had the same name colors, which, for, like, slightly specific shades of blue and pink would be surprising to be coincidental. Unless they were fucking with me on purpose. I don't disagree, Your Honor. The men who attacked Makoto and took Sosuke captive are the same ones who ended up dead that night. But 2 questions do occur to me. Why were you safe on that service elevator if Sosuke surely collapsed the very moment it shut? Wouldn't these men have pursued you by any means necessary?
That is... I can answer that, Your Honor. When the police inspected the scene, they found the control panel for calling that elevator on the 61st floor was broken. Smashed, in fact. The attackers would have had to naturally manually pry open the doors to even attempt to chase after Makoto. And that would have taken remarkable, modded strength.
But they had that. Did you mash the button that forcefully, Sasuke?
I may have used more force than necessary. I wasn't exactly trying to hold myself back at the time.
He hit the controls hard enough to break them. So the Blue Bloods couldn't pursue you further, and instead elected to take Sasuke captive.
Sosuke in the hand is better than a Makoto in the bush. Is it?
I don't think so.
The head of Makoto security would surely have made for an invaluable source of information for planning future attacks. Were he made to talk. Are you denying that?
No, but I would like to ask the witness one other question. Why did you get off the elevator in the first place?
What are you... Hey, what I mentioned in the lobby earlier, that's...
The mics might not be picking up on it for you, but from where I'm standing I can't help but overhear my client groaning about how badly he failed you.
That's not evidence or testimony and so should be stricken from the record. Oh, we get the idea. So, was bailing out early the defendant's big brain idea? As head of my personal security details, such a decision is ultimately his to make. However, that decision may have been influenced by his knowledge of the fact that I'm not especially comfortable in enclosed spaces. What the hell are you doing? Are you trying to humiliate him?
In part. I'm also trying to insult you.
Had we simply waited, we would have remained safe, but I was not comfortable and felt very warm. So it was not a tactical failure on Sosuke's part per se.
Just an error of judgment.
Huh? Counselor Morgan.
What's up? You can disconnect the call if...
Ask me another question. Ask me about how bravely Sosuke defended me. Huh. So that's your angle.
We can't all be as naturally gifted at extracting valuable testimony out of spoiled brats as Emma. But I can follow her example. Insult their pride and these Ikaria snap back, as reliable as any knee-jerk reaction. And in Makoto's case, with infinitely less resistance than if I had simply asked him to testify.
It's usually the lawyers who do the asking and the witnesses who do the answering. This is not very realistic.
We ask that the witness testify for the court in more detail about exactly how valiantly Sosuke fought off the attackers.
And I guess the people don't object, even though it seems super extra. No, the people don't object, Your Honor.
Emma's playing passively. Either I'm onto something here, or I'm walking into a trap. Screw it. All in on the former. Needle guns. Medical records.
Oh, Sosuke with his hair down.
And the needles. So the, like, bloody mouth that looks like some popping lipstick. Okay, let me skim all of these real quick. I imagine the parts that'll be relevant is all the details about how many injuries he had when... No, that was well after. Never mind. I don't think that'll be relevant. This thing was spent
Oh, right. Also, the fact that the thing has the Greek's fingerprints was another reason why it definitely had to be them.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. Anomaly felt anesthetics in his bloodstream. I imagine that'll be relevant too. Okay.
Sosuke was outnumbered from the beginning and protecting me the whole time. It didn't matter that we were ambushed or that the blue bloods had projectiles. Sosuke took up Yoru in both hands and swatted their needles out of the air like a graceful swatter. He fought off 4 attacks without sustaining a single injury.
Well, that's not.
Mock him if you dare for being captured. That's not a failure, not by any general's definition of the word.
Hearing Makoto describe Sosuke's heroism, it's almost more impressive the second time. He definitely fought without a care for himself. And there's evidence to show it. Okay, so I guess the medical record then show how many injuries he ended up with. Neither of... What a pet!
Oh, also, it typically says left hand broken is different from punch.
Interesting. Unscathed is the last thing anyone called my client after the events of that day. I only just remembered I'm on High Roller, so I should have saved at the start of the trial, but I don't think it's going to be a problem at this rate. One look at his medical data from when he was arrested will tell you that much.
What are you getting at, counselor? The defendant's injuries were sustained at the Blue Blood's den, not at Crane Tower. Police didn't even find one drop of any blood anywhere near that service elevator.
Well, that is a miracle. A bloodless ambush. But the fact that no blood was found makes it all the more painfully obvious what actually happened to that elevator panel.
Elevator panel? Ah!
My client broke half the bones in his left hand, smashing it up. Did you really?
I might have. There was a lot of adrenaline at the time.
Did you not form a proper fist? Was your wrist not in alignment with your forearm?
Oh no, Sarah! As I said, Sarah, there was a lot of adrenaline.
Do you deny that this medical record clearly shows his left hand was broken?
Your Honor, what does it matter that the defendant broke his left hand closing that elevator? It is nothing about the witness's testimony.
I mean, his testimony has been contradicted. Kind of. Technically he didn't... I mean, even still, I don't think it's completely accurate to say he didn't even sustain injuries that weren't self-inflicted, because the needles were hitting him. Those aren't necessarily injuries on their own, but the pod wasn't fighting to injure. Blind is only 2 right now, and I've got chips to work with. So I'll raise. Of course it does!
How so? Try to think before you speak, counselor. The adjutant has enough trouble staying focused as is.
Oh well. Well, it may be true that this wrinkle doesn't change the witness's testimony. But it does change the nature of the evidence you had him identify for the court.
Katana? Yoru. Yoru.
Its name is Yoru.
We get it. Its pronouns are he, him. Do you have a point to make, Counselor?
There's something odd about the katana that's been entered into evidence. Something that makes no sense given what we've learned about the outcome of this ambush. Namely, the swords. Namely, the fingerprints that were found on the sword's handle. Fingerprints belonging to Sosuke's right hand.
You're contradicting yourself, Counselor. We've already discussed how it was your client's left hand that he broke closing off the elevator. There's nothing contradictory about him using his right arm to wield the blade. It can be like this because Sosuke has two hands.
No fucking way. The people are correct. The sword found at the scene of the crime has my client's right hand fingerprints on its handle. Despite the fact that this witness just testified that Sosuke was swinging it with both hands. Like a graceful swatter, specifically.
Oh yeah, he did say that. So did the little tyke misremember? It was a chaotic situation where he feared for his life. The court should hardly expect him to have kept track of such an inconsequential detail. Have you already forgotten my magnanimous powers of recollection?
Her tactics from earlier backfired.
I'll have you know I can recite all my subordinates' birthdays down to the hour. Write them all down so I can calculate their moon signs later.
Awesome.
Actually, it's the ascendant that is so affected by the time of day. You fake astrology fan.
Get fucked. It doesn't matter whether the witness is mistaken about Sosuke's grip, Your Honor. Because we have a much bigger issue to address. Why this sword has only my client's fingerprints on it. Makoto testifies that Sosuke wielded this katana in his defense. An act of bravery that ended with my client face down on the floor of Crane Tower. He later woke up, held captive in the lower wards. I'll state the obvious here and say while he was unconscious, he was moved. And so the sword we have in the record must have also been handled by... well, probably not him. Creek face ID'd by Makoto. Second to last dead, which might be relevant, and then Makoto himself. Last to see Sosuke sent off with Katana's sheath. Especially without the sheath, they had to have touched the sword itself to transport it. In fact, this one's easy mode. I'll stock up points for later. Wow! Our poor victim Creek, of course.
What do you mean?
Sosuke was knocked unconscious at Crane Tower. That means that someone else must have brought his sword down to the lower wards. And the only people who had the opportunity to do so would have been his captors.
You mean his victims? Withdrawn.
Withdraw a lawyer to retract a comment, indicate the jury should disregard it in their deliberation, either voluntarily or in response to an objection sustained by a judge. Officially, juries are to disregard any comments that have been withdrawn, should not take them into consideration when evaluating the evidence, witness, or charges. She hit the well technically.
The defense is forgetting a fairly simple fact, Your Honor. There's more than one way to hold a sword. Oh, Worm!
Come on!
In case the defense needs it clarified, Creek could have simply held the sword by its scabbard.
I don't think that's even what it's called in this circumstance. That's bullshit and you know it. That's not possible, Your Honor. Makoto has already testified that Sosuke left the sword's scabbard with him when he thrust him back into the elevator.
Yoru's seat was thrust into my arms, pushing me back into the elevator, and I landed on my rear. I see. And since a cursed sword can't be resheathed until it's tasted blood...
Yes, Your Honor, very well said. We would have found the scabbard at the Blue Blood's den if Creek or his men had taken it with them. Instead, I imagine Makoto took it home.
You think he took key evidence from his own assault and kept it from the police? Of course I did. As if I would trust officers of the law to properly handle a family heirloom as precious as Yoru's sheath.
Officers of the law, whatever that means.
If that is their real name.
Impressive insight, Adonai. But what does this actually mean? Is there some mistake with how the evidence was handled? There's no mistakes here. This was all done with intention. I don't know why I, only just really thought about it. Yeah, obviously, I mean, I guess Morgan was intentionally trying to frame Sosuke. So she wouldn't have cared that, everyone else's prints were gonna get wiped off of it as well. The intention to frame my client by putting his fingerprints onto that sword after the real culprit had already handled it. What a load of bullshit.
Yeah, I'm not doing the crowd anymore than I've realized I've already backed myself into a corner. And the crowd goes wild.
That's completely fair.
Oh, it does make a certain kind of sense.
Because it's the truth. I did wipe that katana's handle down after removing it from Trey's throat. Sosuke just happened to be foolish enough to pick it up himself afterwards. It's frustrating having to keep all my best cards up my sleeve this time around. But the look on Emma's face when I do get to toss them out is...
Gay. People are more than ready to counter, if it pleases the court.
What the hell? Oh.
The defense has made an admirable effort to barrel ahead with this theory.
Think this is Elena Rain? Lena Rain?
Yeah.
Too used to saying it the way that my friend's name is pronounced, and I forget that there's other ways. It's definitely got that vibe, though.
Admirable, but predictable. With a foundation this week, charging ahead and hoping the court won't notice is the only option. Let us speak of the facts. This Creek character led a targeted ambush on the air to House Tokaria, knowing he'd be guarded by a full security team. The Blue Blood successfully sabotaged and intercepted Makoto's elevator at the precise floor they wanted. Meaning they knew exactly where he'd be and when. And they brought with them drugs capable of disabling a veteran with military-grade mods. Planning and attention to detail may be foreign concepts to the defense, but they should at least be able to recognize them. So, the defense seriously suggesting that after all that preparation, Creek's pod wouldn't bother to wear gloves?
I'm glad you asked so nicely. Oh, it's still maxed nice. We don't need to speculate about whether they wore gloves or not. Not when we have Creek's fingerprints on a weapon recovered from the crime scene.
That is a pretty good point, actually. I guess these guys were sloppier than we thought. Those blackguards were barefaced when they attacked us.
I think it's blackguards. But I don't know why.
Maybe.
It's one of those that you see just enough and you hear just enough, but too rarely in the same context to associate them. And also, I think the only source I have on that is the prawn guy from Elden Ring. So who knows how reliable he is.
I would never trust a prawn guy. Idiots. As if there wouldn't be repercussions for their actions. The least they could have done was disguise themselves.
Strike that from the record, Your Honor. Along with any future comments that suggest the Ikaria would want revenge against these victims.
I was only speaking a plain truth.
Creek was their leader, correct? If even Creek wasn't wearing gloves, it's hard to imagine that none of them got their prints onto Yoru.
Unless the sword was indeed wiped down at some point afterwards.
Like right around the time the true culprit was looking for Sosuke to take the fall.
It's a spicy theory. It's just that, Your Honor, a theory. A game theory. A far-fetched, unstable game theory that stacks presuppositions on top of each other. Like a flapjack chef substituting quantity for quality. I'll rephrase. This inconsistency is easily answered without jumping through the defense's absurdly arranged hoops.
That's a little better.
We already know that the Blue Bloods had successfully taken down the Ikaria head of security. We already know that they went out of their way to take the defendant captive despite him not being their original target. Furthermore, as the defense has belabored, we know that they decided to take a useless piece of steel with them from the scene of their crime.
Disrespectful.
Useless? If we ask why, the answer is obvious, because orcas are superstitious and immature. They're babies and idiots. They wanted a trophy, and what is there to do with a trophy? Other than polish it.
Ah. A cloth from Creek's desk. I knew she flagged it in the arcs for some reason, but she'd thought this many steps ahead.
The defense is correct. The sword was wiped down before Sosuke took it up as his murder weapon. By the very same victims he'd go on to claim with it.
That is a completely logical explanation. Damn it! How do we respond to that, Adonai? We... check. We don't. I can't. It makes perfect sense.
I can't tell them that he said he would never do that.
So, does that mean that she's described what actually happened? Not at all. I wiped off the sword myself because my prints were on it. Same as I wiped my prints off of every other... Right. If I can't find fault with Emma's conclusion, I need to find fault with the logic that led her there. I see. And how do you do that? By adjusting my aim. As the people say, Your Honor, no one's fingerprints but my client's are on the murder weapon. That only makes sense if he's guilty or being framed.
There's no evidence to suggest that he's been framed because his captors had valid reasons for wiping off the sword.
That's true. They did have good reason to wipe off the sword. But that's not the murder weapon I'm referring to. First of all, I don't remember seeing that the gun had a name.
It might be the type of gun it is.
Obviously, it's not the needle gun. And I feel like they did find evidence that the bat was used post-mortem, so it would count as the murder weapon. Plus, we already know Sosuke's left hand was broken. It's improbable he could have properly held and fired a pistol with any sort of, like, urgency.
Especially a, like, I think it's actually a sawed-off shotgun because it only had 2 shells in it.
That's true. Like, even if it's, like, even if it's not super large, it's definitely, like, a weapon with some force to it. And, like, also successfully shooting both of his targets.
Also, it doesn't have the fingerprints of the person who owned it on it.
That's true. This gun is the murder weapon I'm referring to.
What?
The police are confident that this Mag US...
Oh.
That this Mag US is the gun that was used to kill Tanks in Creek.
And your client was arrested with it on his person, and it has your client's prints on it.
But it was owned by Tanks.
The record shows that Sosuke's are the only fingerprints on that doohickey. So that means this Tanks guy had never laid a finger on his own gun? It's entirely possible that Tanks simply liked to polish his gun too.
Around the other guys?
Withdrawn, Your Honor. Phrasing. Phrasing?
So he was polishing it right up until the moment his captor grabbed it and used it against him.
More phrasing.
Was it before or after his internal bleeding that my client took the gun off Tanks without him even laying a finger on it first? Before or after being tortured that he got the gun with no struggle?
He could have wrestled over the gun while it was out of reach.
Tanks had no injuries, besides the hole in his chest. How'd he get into a struggle and not get so much as a scratch?
The likelihood of that scenario would seem to come down to the order in which each individual died, no? Yes, Your Honor. And perhaps we ought to hear some more detailed testimony about that. Of course.
The defense has no more questions for this witness, Your Honor. We don't object.
Hold on, what are you saying? Okie dokie then, closing the connection. I said wait, it's Sosuke!
Makoto seemed to be in good spirits, wouldn't you say? Yeah, he was his usual irreproachable self. So how can you find something about that to be depressed over?
A shame that he testified at all. His appearance here runs the risk of sullying the house's visage with my mistakes.
Well, he couldn't exactly slip the subpoena by claiming he had homework to do.
You of all people should understand that the house doesn't have to appear in court if it doesn't truly want to. A fine levied on your accounts is always preferable to a smudge stained on your reputation.
But he did testify.
Yes, and he no doubt went directly against one or more family elders to do so. He should not be incurring debts for my sake.
So he put himself at a disadvantage for you. Do you think Makoto would want you to apologize? Or do you think he'd want you to thank him?
He's young. He doesn't know what he wants yet.
Yay!
Oh, okay.
Yumi Sato,
So
medical
squandered.
examiner. A little too close to Morgan. Yumi. Sarah. Oh, they're besties.
Dr. Sato, we're very grateful for your work sorting through the large number of reports related to this case.
Go ahead and... Makoto's testimony, ambushed at Crane Tower, identified Creek's pod. Sasuke defended him with Yoru with both hands, pushed him into the elevator with the sheath, smashed the panel with his left hand. And then, Yumi Sato. March 3rd, that's coming up, but it'll be between Morgan Mondays. Medical examiner. Likes brushed metal, grilled fish, cardamom. Dislikes frame interpolation, split ends, surveys. Splurges on live show tickets. Favorite color? Phthalocyanine green G. Coat very easy to sanitize. Phthalo? Ow. Let me give that a... It's one of them... That's one of them rich ones. That's one of them bluish ones. That's a good color. Okay. Yeah. 5 bodies, all high priority. Had my head underwater for a good while there.
We'd prefer not to tax you with repeating every grisly detail. But if you could, would you please walk the court through the time of death for each victim and the manner in which they were determined?
Right. From the top. Ankerton, aka Tanks.
I will politely point out that it is 2:50 Pacific time.
We'll at least get through, like, Sato's segment.
Mm-hmm.
And then if either we, like, get done with this court session, or if we, like, get another witness, then it would not be uncharacteristic to have a Morgan Monday run long, but I'm keeping an eye on it. Ankerton, aka Tanks, had a mismatch of street legal and chop shop mods along his forearms. None of them were particularly up to date, but they were all working, and they did monitor his heart rate. Tanks' heart stopped at 9:44 p.m. The cause of death was... I guess there's just no way to know. The slug had a hollow design intended to shatter inside the target. There's no mistaking that he was killed by his own gun, the Mag US, from a distance of 1 to 2 meters. Next up is Sungmin Trench. He also had relatively low-end mods installed, and they show his heart stopping at 9:45 p.m. He died from exsanguination, blood loss resulting from a laceration across his neck by a sharp metal blade.
That wasn't the only injury his body sustained, though, was it?
No, it was not. Posthumously, his skull saw no evil. Heavens Miller Smiles received a puncture wound straight through his jugular vein. Then the blade was withdrawn, exacerbating blood loss, and he was likely unconscious within seconds of falling to the ground. Miller had mods, but had evidently gone to great lengths to remove all monitoring tech from them. And he was not found with any electronics on his person. Using purely medical means, I narrowed his time of death down to a window of 10 minutes between 9:40 and 9:50 p.m. Even though I killed him third, and he was the second to die.
That brings us to Creek.
Yes, like tanks, Lakers, Creek Kristoff was shot once with a hollow slug from a distance of 1 to 2 meters. However, the slug penetrated just beneath their solar plexus and failed to completely shatter when it impacted a low-end spinal brace mod. As a result, Creek didn't die immediately. It is my medical opinion that Creek would have slowly bled out over the course of about 5 minutes. Their mod did not have biomonitoring capabilities. So, like with Miller, I've done what I can to narrow down the time of death to a 10-minute window between 9:40 and 9:50 p.m. So, he was barely modded, and he stayed conscious that whole time anyway. Take a moment to look over all of those. Not that I think there'll be any new info. 9:45, died from the blood loss, then got battered up. Died at 9:44. Single stab wound, massive blood loss. Blood on hand suggests that they attempted to staunch the bleeding or remove the weapon. Self-defense mechanisms were activated shortly prior to death. The location of the stab wound most likely faced their attacker and attempted to fight back. Blood loss and hemorrhaging. Oh, spinal brace, low-cost, low-tech corrective measure for a injury or growth defect. DT3. Medical records indicate DT3, no signs of the disease seem to exist. No metformin in bloodstream. Most likely subject recovered due to natural robustness.
Conclusion? Non-binary people can take a lot of damage.
Oh, that's true. But we do
Sadly,
have...
they can't double jump.
Oh, no. Not unless they're non-binary in a sufficiently, like, trans woman way. But then that's a separate thing, kind of, sometimes, depending on the person.
Mm-hmm.
But not always. But we do have one other context clue to work with. This datapad was found very close to Creek's body, and technicians confirmed that it requires Creek's fingerprints for most functions. That means it's unlikely that anyone else would have been able to manipulate it. And we found that the last action taken on it was an attempted dark card transaction that failed at 9:44 p.m.
What could cause a dark card transaction to fail?
Either they hit cancel or the card itself was jostled, interrupting the scan.
Is it the datapad was suddenly dropped?
Speculation.
How much qualification does one need to understand that card readers can be finicky, Your Honor? True enough. Chip, swipe, pin, tap. Let me buy the damn balloon animal, you clown. So, taking that digital evidence into account...
Creek must have been shot almost at the exact same time as Tanks.
Thank you. There's one more body you need to examine. You examined for this case, yes?
Officer Tariq Chopin. I didn't need to determine his time of death. As a patrol officer, he had a standard suite of police-issued biomonitors. So we know that Officer Chopin's heart stopped at 10:14:04 p.m.
Triggering an automatic 10999 alert. Officer down.
Lighting up that crime scene like a firecracker and ensuring every cop in the city would come running, royally pissed and safeties off. Chopin was impaled through his back by a long, thin blade. It severed his aorta, and as a result, he died instantly.
To summarize, then, we can conclude that Tank's gun was taken from him before 9:44 p.m. He and Creek were then shot with it. Their attacker, out of ammunition, took up a sword and stabbed Miller in the throat, before slicing into Trey's neck. This individual then proceeded to posthumously crush Trey's skull by striking it so hard that they shattered a baseball bat. As Creek bled to death on the other side of the room. Finally, when Officer Chapon entered the scene, they stabbed him in the back, before finally being apprehended by Officer Rogers.
That's all correct as far as we understand it. So now Rockford's put together a timeline. It's probably helpful for the jury, putting it all in chronological order. But have we actually learned anything new about the culprit's actions? We have. Emma brought her on the stand to establish the culprit's... I mean, the time feels like the most notable part, I think. The methodology, we didn't need the medical examiner to analyze as long as we had the, like, arcs. And I guess technically the, like, autopsy reports themselves. Having the expertise to help narrow down what happened when feels more tangible. She wanted to establish the starting time of all the murders.
Wasn't that pretty obvious just from one autopsy? Tanks died first, and his mods confirmed it.
Well, yes, but the fact that Tanks and Creek died first, combined with where their shooter stood, tells us in what part of the room the culprit must have started their killing spree. Well, they hate me, but that's okay.
Correct, because Creek and Tanks died first, and they were both shot within 1 to 2 meters. We know the culprit must have started taking action right by the desk.
And not by the door to the holding room.
Indeed.
So the likelihood that my client broke out from there
Is not very high at all.
Check. Interesting. Yes?
An abundance of DNA evidence establishes that the defendant was indeed held in the other room. But clearly, he didn't remain there. His captors must have taken him out to question him in the main room, and dragged him in front of the desk where Tank's gun would be within reach.
You're the one who's reaching.
You have evidence to the contrary? A better explanation for how he got out of where he was being held?
Can't exactly propose that the real killer set him free as a scapegoat. The forensics are clear. My client was gagged and bound in that room.
Was, but clearly they had to cut him loose to question him. Mistake that ended up costing them their lives.
Do you think that's true, Sasuke?
Not positive, of course. But my body is telling me that I was held in that room from the time I woke up until I got myself free.
Emma's theory about the Blue Bloods being dumb enough to let Sasuke near a gun isn't perfect. But it's still a theory. I don't have
Game
jack
theory.
shit to counter with, because not even Sasuke knows I let him out.
And if the defense has no objections, then they'll just have to take this L and meekly move on to their cross-examination.
Atone, that made you sound very feeble. You've developed a habit of only using we when I'm winning. Fix it. That made us sound very feeble.
Why do I have to get roped in?
Emma's already established a timeline and an order of events. I could pick at the details, but she's close enough to the truth already. I know the truth, firsthand, about every death except Chopin. In his case, Emma and I are on even footing. So what's my advantage? What do I know that everyone else is mistaken about? I mean, technically, the biggest thing is the murder weapon. Like, the knife. The unknown knife. Right. The murder weapons. Everyone thinks Miller was stabbed in the neck by the katana. I'm the only one who knows my knife was there. There's got to be a way I can use that information to my advantage here, without revealing that I have it or how I got it. I'm walking a razor's edge here. At least it's thematically appropriate. The defense is ready to begin our cross-examination, Your Honor. Dr. Sato, you were asked to examine all 5 bodies. Did you visit the crime scene? I did not. Have not. Photos and other ARCS data were provided to me to aid in my examination.
Surely the defense isn't objecting to a little virtual work.
Of course not. After all, had anything been added or removed from the crime scenes, the ARCS would show it. There's no fooling it once it's been set up. Well, the blade wounds are the most relevant thing for sure. The victims, Trey and Miller, were both attacked with a blade. Exactly how fast did they die? Trey had his throat slashed, and blood found on his hand suggested that he had time to reach up to his neck in response. But he would have quickly stumbled back and collapsed onto the floor, dead. Miller wouldn't have lost much blood at the moment his neck was punctured. For that kind of wound, the weapon acts as a stopper. But once that stopper was removed, he would have lost consciousness in mere seconds. And while the blade was still in his neck, if it was there for more than a second, he too would have reflectively reached up, presumably to try and grab the blade. Is there any evidence that he tried to grab the razor-sharp katana lodged into his neck? He had his own blood on his right hand, but there were no cuts on it. Because he grabbed the knife's handle, not a sword's edge. So it stands to reason that the blade was withdrawn very quickly. By the time his hands reached up to his neck, it must have been gone. One of many small inconsistencies with this katana theory I can shine a light on.
That's just a theory. A katana theory.
Will that be enough? Investigate katana stab. Stabbing Miller's neck so precisely and so fast, that would be quite the feat of swordsmanship.
Stating a conclusion, Your Honor.
Comments withdrawn, quick as a blade. Have you ever seen a stab wound like the one that killed Miller, inflicted by a long blade, and wielded in one hand by a man experiencing heavy blood loss? No, I can't say that I have. Now, whether that maneuver is impressive or improbable, well, I'm a doctor, not a fencer.
It's not a fencing sword.
And Sosuke doesn't own a rapier.
Well, actually...
Did you find that the stab wound on Miller's neck fit the sword that the police removed? Approximately. That doesn't sound conclusive. The entry wound is slightly smaller than I would expect for such a precise stab. The sword hand must have barely trembled, but it's within tolerable ranges. Furthermore, DNA on the tip of the sword is a match for Miller. Damn it, just because I happened to drag it across where his blood had dripped. And of course there isn't any other implement at the scene that fits the wound better. No, of course there isn't. Well, I guess... I'm a little curious. I mean, blood might... Blood's a real interesting substance. My thought process is that, like,
Morgan sentence.
Chopin died like 15, 20 minutes after the rest. And so, like, oh, I mean, like, either way, the blood would have been, like, on the katana. I was just trying to think if that would be enough time for it to, like, dry enough that, like, getting stabbed into another person and having his blood on it wouldn't muddle how much of the blood underneath was detectable, but it probably doesn't matter at all. 2 individuals suffered gunshot wounds. You found that both matched the MAG US firearm that's been entered into evidence? I did. Shrapnel is by nature unpredictable, but the scale of destruction does make it pretty hard to mistake for anything else. Didn't exactly learn anything new there. Couldn't the shrapnel have been there already? I mean, under the circumstances, that doesn't seem worth pressing. Could you speak a bit more about the manner of Officer Chopin's death? Well, to reiterate, his body was found with the katana stuck through his back. It had punctured his heart, killing him. There was massive blood loss at the scene. At least in part because the wound in question was agitated, I suppose I'd say. What do you mean by agitated? Honestly, as though after impalement the blade was moved around inside the wound. As if it had become stuck and someone was struggling to remove it. One had mentioned that Sato found this wound odd, but to hear her specifically say the blade had become stuck. That's interesting. Thank you, Dr. Sato. I think I can speak for us all when I say I found that very enlightening. Blackjack.
Adonai, why do you keep saying blackjack?
Dr. Sato, you just testified that Officer Chopin was impaled from behind. Did this occur on the spot where his body was found? Yes, it did. The body shows no signs of being moved. I'm curious, then. What was there for the sword to get stuck on? Huh? Well, if Chopin was in the center of the room, standing upright,
Oh, that is a gauntlet. Okay, yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't have gotten caught on the air, right? Bone, perhaps? Surely you examined the wound inside and out? Did you see marks on his rib cage where the blade had caught? No, I didn't. Then it stands to reason that the blade didn't get caught on anything inside Mr. Chopin.
It got caught on the floor.
Pardon?
You need to take greater advantage of the arcs, Counselor Morgan. Learn to flip things on their head. Entire rooms, if need be. If you had, you'd see there's a clear indentation in the floor that lines up perfectly with Mr. Chopin's wound. How did you think the tip of the sword got chipped?
You're saying the sword got stuck in the floor?
That's what the facts are saying. Do you disagree?
I mean, yeah, the sword could have. Stabbed, crossed out, and impaled marked. It's not impossible that it could have gotten stuck in the floor. See if there's anything that feels relevant to check. Obviously, potentially the katana itself. But I don't... It just doesn't... It feels like such a specific, like... It depends on what the floor of the place is made of, but, like... Either he was stabbed standing up and then fell in just the right way that the sword tip... Like, he fell with enough force that the sword in him got stuck, which would also mean whoever stabbed him was no longer holding the sword? Or they, like, he had already been knocked down and they, like, stabbed him on the ground so hard that it got stuck in the floor, which contradicts the evidence. I don't know that I have the evidence to raise, but I'm gonna.
It's like in both your examples. I mean, I don't actually remember how this goes, but I was gonna say in both those examples, it does still end up in the floor.
Yeah, but again, if it's like a tile floor or something, then maybe it could get stuck. But if it's like maybe wood, I guess it could get stuck in as well, but...
I genuinely don't remember which was the right choice, so it's just me speculating.
Of course that's not possible. He was stabbed in the back while standing up, so... They hate me.
They're so mean and cruel, these. So he would have then collapsed face first onto the floor, bringing the sword with him.
Well, yes, if you want to get technical. Ugh. I mean, I should have trusted my gut that I didn't actually have evidence. I suppose if Chopin was impaled, then fell face first.
Makes perfect sense for the sword to get caught in the floor as he collapsed on top of it.
So we can conclude that after being impaled, Chopin fell over with the sword still in his torso, driving the sword into the ground. Then his attacker aggravated the wound by trying to retrieve the sword from his corpse. Does that sound right?
What? You asking me?
Sort of, asking the room, I guess. Well, I believe I can answer. What you're describing makes sense, Dr. Sato, but only up until we consider again the fingerprints on the sword handle. If my client really did impale Tariq Chopin and get his sword stuck doing so, why would he try to retrieve it with only one hand?
Because he had to retrieve it with one hand. You yourself already elucidated that the defense's left hand was broken when he destroyed the elevator panel in Crane Tower.
His left hand was too damaged for him to even grip a sword. That doesn't square with this piece of evidence.
No, I'll wait to make that observation.
Hold on. Oh, yeah.
I like how this piece of evidence is being presented in the exact opposite way as this exact sort of contradiction usually is. Which is at almost every case I can think of is like is like disproving the item in question because, well, he couldn't have used that hand. Instead going, well, obviously he could have used that hand. Just look at this. Mag US?
How could my client's left hand be too damaged to grip his sword, and yet also capable of gripping the Mag US?
That oddity is hardly impossible to explain. We've already determined the Mag US was fired twice before the sword was used at all. Firing such a weapon with a broken hand surely rendered his left useless.
Ugh, that's... It is difficult to wield a sword with a damaged hand, isn't it, Sasuke?
Historically, even the loss of a pinky on your non-dominant hand was considered enough to render you relatively defenseless.
Is that why Yakuza would offer to cut off fingers as recompense for offenses?
That's right, Sarah. In fact,
Cut the chatter and save the history lesson. He had to pull the sword loose with one hand because his left was useless. Looking at all the forensics pulled from the katana, that's... Your Honor, the people claim that my client had to use one hand to retrieve the sword because his other hand was disabled. But does the evidence actually suggest that?
what do you mean?
Forensics performed on the katana found my client's right hand fingerprints on the handle. But what grip are the prints a match for?
Let me just give this a quick think here as I meticulously analyze the position of each finger. A normal grip. The grip is normal. Do you mean to say the thumb is facing towards the blade, Your Honor? Yeah, but isn't it just easier to say he held it like normal?
If my client only held the sword with his right hand normally, Your Honor, that would mean he held the handle like that even as he tried to jostle the blade free from the floor it was impaled in.
Which is far from impossible. But if, Your Honor, the court has questions about how exactly the defendant was positioned when he was found standing above Officer Chauvin's corpse, I believe the people's next witness will be able to answer all of them.
That can only mean it's finally time to face off with the arresting officer.
Chauvin's partner. Very well, now might be the moment.
Oh.
Then let us summon to the stand, null name not found.
What?
What?
Is that a family or given name?
What? Yeah, got one big ol' error right here, and it's a classic. Witness not found, literally. He ain't here. What? Had hours to get here. Where the hell could he possibly be?
Her star witness is a no-show? Is this good news or bad news? Like hitting the jackpot on the world's sketchiest slot machine. Feels good, but you get the feeling that the staff is gonna make you pay for it.
Idiotic.
Pay for it when?
Fine, I'll finish it myself.
Right about now.
Perhaps it's for the best then, Your Honor. We can save the court trouble by wrapping things up here and now, and I've only just noticed the ribbon bow on her shirt.
She's literally cutes.
Facts are simple, and the defense has failed to refute them. Thus, the people call for summary judgment.
Already.
The defendant is the only one with prints on the gun. Is the only one with prints on the katana. His own employer testified to this court that he was attacked and captured by 4 of the 5 victims. He was found and arrested standing over the body of a dead cop before 2 more officers arrived and secured the scene.
That must be Reyes in London she's referring to.
His As the only living person left on the scene of the crime, there was no one else who could have committed these murders.
She's on a tear, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't entertaining. But it's only because she's on tilt. She was thrown off by her witness flaking, and it's caused her to overstep. She just fired off a lot of claims in quick succession, which is the weakest one. Where do I counterattack? Yeah, this is just a little too in the middle of it to stop yet. I at least want to get like a little...
This delay happened?
Quick. Not the only living person left. Unless Rogers and Chopin did not actually show up at the same time. So technically he's not the only suspect. She just claimed that Sosuke is the only one who could have committed these murders. She can't possibly prove that. She can't prove that there wasn't anyone else there that night because I actually was. And unlike her, I can prove the possibility of another party being present without having to reveal their identity. The people are mistaken, Your Honor. My client wasn't the only other person there that night. And there's evidence to show it. I mean, the dark card, I think, of these is the most damning.
Used to White Prince? Yes. What is that? The dark card found lodged in Creek's datapad?
That's right. The perfect payment option when neither you nor the businesses you frequent like attaching names to faces. We've already discussed that within moments of Creek's death, a transaction was being attempted on his datapad. A transaction made using this dark card. But whatever for? Perhaps some of the handful of illicit substances that were found at the scene of the crime.
Oh crap, yeah, I almost forgot. These guys were drug dealers.
And drug dealers get customers, Your Honor. Customers that can be very temperamental when things go south.
Are you trying to suggest that these killings were the result of a drug deal gone wrong?
I mean, they sort of were.
A drug deal made in person at a blue blood stronghold?
Dark cards acquire a passkey and a fingerprint. The card would be useless if its owner wasn't physically present for the transaction. A transaction that might be abruptly cancelled if tensions boiled over. A potential buyer would likely have been across the desk from Creek. The same spot in the room that we've established that the killer must have started their rampage.
Good idea, counselor, but there's no meat to it. Love when she looks down on the viewer like a worm. We know that Creek was using that datapad before he died. And we know that the dark card was processing a transaction at the time. But for some reason, you made the assumption that he was selling, when the simplest explanation is that he was buying, using the dark card that he owned.
The dark card belonged to Creek? How will you respond? I don't need to respond with evidence. OTD. Hello and welcome. I just need to point out the flawed evidence she's constructed her argument upon. Ah, and thank you so much for the follow. We are going to be wrapping up very soon. I'm always getting into the middle of a scene enough that I don't want to stop yet. But, very much appreciated, either which way. Wiped of all prints known only to rich criminals. If he owned it, why would he wipe the prints off? I think that's the most notable thing. I'm not going to stake anything on it. characterization, Your Honor.
Another banger new animation.
Really good. The people are claiming that the dark card and evidence record belonged to the victim, Creek, despite the fact that it has no fingerprints on it either.
Yes,
Holy
my
shit.
favorite track.
Really, the card explains the card! If that dark card had belonged to Creek, he would have had to insert it into his datapad with his teeth.
Ah. Who did that dark card belong to?
Perhaps a customer who didn't like his prices. A disgruntled customer could have wiped their prints off the card to hide the fact that they were ever there.
Absurd. If a customer brought that dark card with them to the crime scene, why the hell wouldn't they take it with them when they left?
I think as much as... I think I need to turn the music down just a little bit.
Oh no. Same.
Probably about there. Not enough that it's, like, inaudible.
Oh! Sorry, I'm just noticing for the first time that if you want, you can turn off it was a little lower, where was it? The, testimony insights.
Oh, yeah.
It's a nice feature. Love a bass solo.
I'm worried about some of these more bombastic tracks drowning out the voices a little bit, but again, I don't want them to be, like, inaudible themselves. It was stuck in the datapad.
They could have pulled a little harder. They could have taken the datapad with them.
The volume is good, that's good.
Who would leave behind something that valuable?
The card is worthless to everyone but its owner.
Whom it could be priceless. Why would they choose to leave it behind?
The answer to that is simple. If I'm honest. We're discussing the possibility of a deal gone south. What could cause that in the first place? Aggressive negotiating tactics? Or a customer who couldn't pay?
This customer could afford a dark card.
And yet they couldn't pay.
Hold on, you're trying to say all these deaths, all this carnage. You think it's all because their card got declined?
Hard to live down that kind of faux pas.
Murdering 4 or 5 people in order to skip paying your bill is pretty aggressive, but if you need your fix... Was there any indication that the contraband was taken from the scene of the crime? Your Honor, that is difficult to say. Without knowing their inventory before the crime occurred, we cannot rule out the possibility.
That was a little lackluster of a pushback. Is she really that thrown off by this witness playing hooky?
Oh, I hate to do this because I love spending time with you all and having a physical body and being ensouled.
Freak.
But it does seem like I have to declare recess while we wait.
Perfectly reasonable, Your Honor.
That's the most romantic thing I've ever heard.
What?
Court is now in recess.
Whew. Okay, we have to stop right there immediately because we are half an hour over time. Not that there's anything super urgent to do, but good heavens. Whenever
Chapter 3 comes out and I inevitably play it before you stream it, I need to not claim voicing the client. Because that was what really got me. Mm-hmm. Switching between Makoto voice and Sosuke voice is a
little bit harsh for sure. Okay.
And Bimbo 80 voice and Scratchy Emma voice. Oh.
Just a little too much. I think I handled it really well though.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
I like to make a silly voice.
It's very important. Thank you everybody for being here today. I'm gonna get a raid set up in a moment, but first I'm going to shout out my co-commentator here.
Yippee!
For being a champion and a good friend, and also doing his own thing.
Yeah, also Tuesday streamer, where I'm playing Air's Adventure. Maybe the most a game I played has ever felt like this game is being done to me.
Oh goodness.
And not in a like because it sucks. I mean, it does suck way, but in that things are happening constantly.
Good gracious. I tend to be really busy on Tuesdays, but I gotta try to see if I have a window to at least swing by and see what's going on.
No, I'm not. I'm always trying to shift the frickin' oh my god, my brain. Blech. The VODs to my channel.
And then I'm going to get a raid set up for Four Leaf Island, as usual. Who is doing art today, looks like. Now, thank you for being here, everybody. Very appreciative, having a great time. Friday we're doing some more Silent Hill F. We kind of beat the game last week, but...
Just first ending?
Yeah, you have a default ending you get for beating the game, and then there's a New Game Plus, so I'm gonna figure out how much of the New Game Plus I want to stream and how much I want to just, like, do on my own time, but either way, we're doing more of it. More of the Devil on Morgan Monday, of course, next week. Very exciting episode today. If you want to find updates on our schedule, you can find us on Tumblr. If you want to catch up on VODs, we have them on YouTube, or if you want to send us a little bit of monetary support, we have a Ko-Fi account. All usernames Junipops, spelled the same as this channel. And again, thank you all for being here. Hope that you'll have a good rest of the day. Play nice in our Raid Targets chat. And I hope that you all have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Almost hit stop streaming first, which I think cancels the raid if